Chapter 1653. From the start of the battle until now, Chu Yang's performance had shocked everyone. 1 against 4, but he didn't dodge at all. He faced the 4 head-on, killing Rupert first, then Eden, then Green. The underworld child used the 3 lives corpse. His attacks were incomparably terrifying. He wanted to kill Chu Yang at every moment, but he was sent flying again and again. He couldn't save Rupert and the other 2. Chu Yang's battle prowess was shocking. What was even more shocking was that Chu Yang only used the profound of darkness. At this moment, Chu Yang was like the king of the night. He was full of battle intent. His murderous aura pervaded the surroundings. Everything was wiped out by the formless murderous aura. Absolutely shocking. The powerful aura shook everyone's mind. The scene was even more shocking. Chu Yang had suppressed the supreme taboo technique of the 3 lives corpses and killed 3 demon-blessed individuals in a flash. He was simply an undefeatable demon king of slaughter. His long black hair danced in the wind, and his divine might was awe-inspiring. Who could possibly be his opponent? Oh my God, so fierce. Damn, if this day comes, I'll be willing to die immediately. Don't even think about it. A taboo technique like the 3rd life corpse alone is enough to kill all of us in an instant, not to mention the 3 demon-favored ones. That's right. I can brag for the rest of my life if I can kill 1 demon-blessed individual. This Chu Wudi is really undefeatable. Who can be his opponent? This Chu Wudi who appeared out of nowhere will sweep away everything. He will look down on all the heaven's prides and dominate the starting ground. The crowd was in an uproar. They were all shocked beyond words. To them, Chu Yang was not only undefeatable, but also a supreme god of slaughter. He had unparalleled talent and terrifying strength. Unlike the crowd, the heaven's prides who were watching this battle from the side didn't exclaim in surprise. They were only apprehensive and even uneasy. They felt that there was someone who was firmly stepping on them. Chu Wudi cannot be allowed to live. The Scion of Light declared in an incomparably resolute tone, if he matures, he will be a great calamity. All of us will be pressured by him to the point where we won't be able to breathe. He must die before daybreak. The purple-haired man beside the Scion of Light was even more aggressive. Feng Xinglei of the Wind Thunder Clan, Huo Wushuang of the Fire Worship Sect, Bai Wenpin of the Pupil Clan, the Son of Heaven's Mandate of the Pupil Clan, the 5 Poisons Child of the Earth Poison Sect, and the 5 Illumination Child of the 5 Illumination Sect that Chu Yang didn't know about. Under the organization of the Chosen One, they quickly came to an agreement and decided to work together to kill Chu Yang tonight, completely erasing him and leaving no trace behind. The process was not complicated, and it could be said that they hit it off immediately. In every era, there would be a supreme and unique character. If such a character didn't exist, the era would create such a character to lead the tide of the entire era. They would become the representative of that era, a supreme sovereign who could suppress the heavens and the ages. A single leaf knows autumn. Many heavens' prides only needed to watch such a battle to realize that the leader of their era had appeared, and they felt a great sense of crisis. Their keen intuition also told them that Chu Yang, who could easily deal with a forbidden secret technique like the 3 lives corpse, would definitely make them dim in comparison. They would completely be reduced to supporting roles in this era, and they would never be able to stand out again. The 3 lives corpse was a supreme secret technique that was extremely shocking. Who could calmly deal with such a forbidden technique and kill people with such ease? The Son of Heaven's Mandate and the others asked themselves if they could do it. They didn't need such a person. Every one of them hoped to become the leader of their era. Therefore, Chu Yang, who had occupied such a position in advance, was their public enemy. They couldn't let him live. Chapter 1654. Chu Yang knew that he was being targeted by the Sky Prides of the starting ground, but he didn't know that the Sky Prides had joined forces. His eyes fell on the underworld child, and seemed to see a long river of time. In the long river, 3 people appeared and buried themselves. At this time, the 3 people buried in the long river turned into 3 rotting corpses. They crawled out of the coffins and sent a wave of energy into the underworld child's body through the long river of time. This corpse of the 3 lives is really shocking. It actually involves the domain of time. What's more shocking is that it uses the corpses as the connection point. Chu Yang exclaimed in his heart. At the same time, he thought to himself, it's time to deal with the underworld child. He couldn't learn such a secret technique, and he disdained to learn it. As for how to break it, he already had an idea. Since the other party involved the domain of time, he could only use the laws of time to deal with it. Chu Yang had a divine ability that was related to the laws of time. It was the reincarnation divine ability. The corpse of the 3 lives. The first 3 lives were inferior to the reincarnation divine ability. It could transmit the power to the 4th generation and directly send the underworld child's first 3 lives into the reincarnation divine ability. However, just as he was about to use the reincarnation divine ability, a loud roar shook the heavens and earth. Chu Guangming, you said you wanted to kill me. Now I want to kill you. You should have no problem with that, right? Rumble. Thunder rumbled. The one who spoke was Feng Xinglei. There was a pair of golden wings on his back, and as they flapped gently, one flashed with lightning. Lightning danced like silver snakes, and endless lightning spread out. The other wing let out whistling sounds, and the whistling sounds of the wind also echoed through the world. The void was even cut open. This plaything is showing off again. Chu Yang didn't care much about Feng Xinglei. After all, he was just a loser. If Feng Xinglei knew it was him, he would probably be pissing his pants. He wouldn't dare to provoke him. Those who kill will be killed by others. Hu Wushuang's fiery red hair fluttered and stood on end like a burning divine flame. His entire body was wrapped in the surging divine flame, and it burned the surroundings to the point of crackling and popping sounds. The void was like iron, and it was burned red. Dog Dong, you killed me once. It's time for revenge. The Scion of Light was like a sacred sun, his whole body bursting with pure white and sacred radiance. As soon as he stepped forward, a buzzing sound filled the air. It was as if the world couldn't contain the presence of so many chosen, and was on the verge of exploding. 1. As soon as the Scion of Light finished his words, the more than 2 meters tall purple-haired man at his side directly took out a long spear and pointed it at Chu Yang. Looking at the spear, Chu Yang saw the radiant god cult's lord being nailed to a cross. Someone stabbed the lord's abdomen with the spear, and the lord's blood dripped into that person's eyes. In an instant, that person was converted and became a devout saint, gaining the ability to perform miracles and fight in all directions. He is the Lord that the Church of Divine Light believes in. He has chosen the spokesperson to rule the world and is in charge of the expedition. Chu Yang understood. His soul felt the spear and trembled slightly. A mysterious feeling flowed through his heart. He knew the identity of this person, the War God of the Radiant God Church, the new generation of War God. The spear in his hand was blessed by the Lord, and was called the Spear of Longinus. How lively! Chu Wudi, didn't you say you were invincible? You shouldn't have any objections if I join in, right? Another person stood out. Suddenly, the sharp sound of insects, the hissing of poisonous snakes, all kinds of terrifying cries, all kinds of poisonous creatures, and so on all appeared. Chi. Chapter 1655. Son of 5 Poisons. What a terrifying poison! If you touch even a little bit, you'll definitely die. Everyone cried out in shock, allowing Chu Yang to instantly know the identity of this person. Chu Wudi, if you can defeat him with me, wouldn't you seem even more invincible? Am I right? This person was wearing a white robe and was as divine as jade. He didn't reveal any aura, but he was incomparably compatible with heaven and earth. The spirit energy automatically gathered towards him, and immediately there was a 5-colored mist. Power of 5 elements. Chu Yang didn't know the identity of this person, but he saw through this person's technique with a glance. Don't waste any more time. In the starting ground, time is very precious. The pockmarked youth appeared. He had an ordinary figure, an ordinary height, and an ordinary appearance, but the pockmarks on his face weren't ordinary at all. His face was like the starry sky, and the pockmarks on his face seemed to be the stars in the starry sky. They were the 3,650 stars in the sky. At the same time, traces of chaos emerged from his eyes. His pupils were like millstones, just like Chu Yang's millstone. However, it wasn't the manifestation of all things, but fragments, either something that had already happened, or something that was about to happen, or some kind of prediction. Son of Heaven! Someone immediately exclaimed, and his voice was filled with disbelief. Heavens, it's really the Son of Heaven. His pupils are a millstone. That millstone should be the millstone of heaven's secrets. It can deduce the secrets of heaven. With a glance, he can know what will happen to this person in the future, how it will be, and clearly know a person's fate. If I can get some pointers from the Son of Heaven, I will be able to turn misfortune into fortune, and become a dragon from a fish. I will be different from before, as if I have obtained a supreme fortune. Many people present, when looking at this pockmarked youth, their eyes were incomparably fervent, and at the same time there was a deep reverence. A person who could predict the future, understand the secrets of heaven, and shoulder the mission of heaven, such a person was simply unimaginable. Bang bang bang! As the crowd reeled in shock, the Chosen One looked at Chu Yang, and a series of explosive sounds rang out from within his eyes. The primal chaos energy was blown away, and his millstone-like pupils were blasted apart, revealing eyes that were no different from those of the others. From the corner of Chu Yang's eyes, 2 streams of blood and tears rolled down like a small river, causing everyone to fall silent. Even the Chosen One was unable to see through Chu Yang's fate. He had suffered a great backlash. As expected, you're not part of the heavenly Tao. You're a monster of the heavens. You deserve death. The Son of Heaven used the name of heaven to accuse Chu Yang of a great crime. He wanted to use this crime to kill Chu Yang and completely erase him from the world. Ha ha! Hearing this, Chu Yang laughed loudly. What a lousy excuse. Spying on the private affairs of heaven all day long. Not only is it bad for your virtue, you actually have the nerve to accuse me of a crime in the name of heaven. It's not bad that someone as shameless as you can catch up to me. The Son of Heaven ignored Chu Yang's rebuttal and said to the crowd of heaven's prides, "This is a monster of the heavens. He will definitely bring disaster to the world and cause a great disaster. Everyone, act according to heaven's will and kill him." His thoughts were extremely clear. He wanted Chu Yang to die. Chu Yang did not speak again, but one thing was certain. He hated the Son of Heaven the most. He must seize the opportunity to make the Son of Heaven act serious enough and pretend to be righteous enough. Chapter 1656. What are they doing? Are all the heaven's prides teaming up to deal with Chu Wudi? To muster so many people and gather so many geniuses, just how heaven-defying is this Chu Wudi to be able to do this? Who deserves this kind of treatment? Who can be targeted like this? Almost all the heaven's prides are here. Even if they lose, even if they die, it's still a supreme glory. Who can compare? Unbelievable. These geniuses, these God's chosen ones, each more arrogant than the other. Today, they're lowering themselves to gang up on one person. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, how could I believe it? Twists and turns. The situation had changed completely beyond everyone's imagination. No one had thought that the final result would be like this. So many supreme heaven's prides were teaming up to deal with Chu Wudi. especially when Chu Wuti was still dealing with the underworld child who used a forbidden technique. Were these geniuses and Heaven's prides not afraid of being criticized? Everyone's hearts were completely shaken, and they were also deeply shocked by this scene. They also couldn't imagine how shocking Chu Wuti was to attract this kind of attention. TSK, all the people in the divine world are spineless things. They don't have any pride. Chu Yang was disdainful, but he wasn't afraid. He had expected this scene, but it came a little too quickly. In his opinion, he should have become public enemy number one after the appearance of the initial Qi. Therefore, he really didn't expect it to develop to this extent so quickly. His disdain was natural. Heaven's prides were usually arrogant and disdained to team up with others to gang up on others. However, in the divine world, in the starting ground, this kind of thinking was completely shattered. Haha! Chu Yang faced so many Heaven's prides. His heart was filled with pride. Let me see how strong you are. Do you think you're strong because you have more people? I hope you're not too weak. Otherwise, I'll beat the shit out of you. One against many, Chu Yang was already used to this kind of scene. However, this time, many people were Heaven's prides. Of course, he felt pressure, but he was also a little excited. Fighting against the world alone, fighting against so many Heaven's favorites alone, no matter the outcome, would definitely be a beautiful memory in his life, making his life more colorful. The son of all beasts and Xiao Qiuyu, who had yet to appear, could only shake their heads when they saw this scene and heard Chu Yang's loud laughter. There were definitely not many people like Chu Yang, and he was definitely a genius among geniuses. Who do you think will win? They can't fight. The son of all beasts opened his eyes wide. He pointed at the field and said to Xiao Qiuyu, "Which eye of yours are you using to say that they won't be able to fight? They're on the verge of breaking out." Xiao Qiuyu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently, "I said it with my two eyes. If your eyes are useful, the child of destiny will listen to you." The son of all beasts said disdainfully, "I forbid it. Son of all beasts. So that was the reason." Then he was shocked and shouted, "You want to get involved? What do you think?" The son of all beasts became mute again and said again, "Even if you want to stop it, I'm afraid you don't have the ability." "I don't have the ability," Xiao Qiuyu sneered. "My sword has the ability. Before I fight with him, no one can give him pressure and let him break through." At this moment, the son of all beasts completely understood what Xiao Qiuyu meant. The child of destiny and the others were all trash. They would definitely lose, and they would only help Chu Wuti break through. Once Chu Wuti broke through, he would be even more terrifying. Xiao Qiuyu already felt that he was not Chu Wuti's match. If Chu Wuti broke through, then he, Xiao Qiuyu, would definitely die. Chapter 1657. The son of all beasts agreed with Xiao Qiuyu's logic, but he was very unhappy. He was still waiting to watch the show. "I hate your attitude." Xiao Qiuyu didn't listen at all. He only said, "You go and tell them to scram." "Me?" The son of all beasts pointed at himself with a face of disbelief. What did this have to do with him? Why did he have to interfere and offend a group of geniuses? Is there a problem? Xiao Qiuyu felt that this was a matter of course. Yes. The son of all beasts roared. "There is a problem, a big problem. Bastard Xiao, at least give me a reason." "That's because you're supposed to be in the limelight." "Bug Xiao, stop your bug fart." The son of all beasts was extremely dissatisfied with this answer. Xiao Qiuyu's face was still calm. "Aren't you going to take this opportunity to become Chu Wuti's best friend? Aren't you going to show off your bad habits to the extreme?" "Fuck." The son of all beasts was so shocked that he jumped up. He stared at Xiao Qiuyu with his eyes wide open. "Bug Xiao, you can even see this? Aren't you just thinking that after the battle starts, if you see that Chu Wuti is still okay, you will rush out and fight side by side with him? Not only will you make a friend like Chu Wuti, but you will also be able to show off." Xiao Qiuyu was very disdainful. The son of all beasts felt that Xiao Qiuyu had seen through all of his tricks. Bug Xiao, you are fucking awesome. You are my grandfather. The son of all beasts was short of breath. But what's the use of me interfering now? I only told you to go and fart. What if someone is not convinced? If he is not convinced, I have a sword. The son of all beasts curled his lips and said, Isn't it just using words? If you can't win, then use a sword. Low level, no class. He was really unhappy because Xiao Qiuyu's sword was indeed terrifying. One sword could turn all words into nonsense. Master, when will you be able to do that? The son of all beasts shook his head and walked towards the field with his hands behind his back. Before he even arrived, he already spoke. Southeast direction, the target is the famous son of 10,000 beasts. Everyone, your attention should be focused on me. This humble one must receive such treatment in order to be satisfied. His voice was out of tune, and he looked like a sloppy bird. The son of all beasts successfully attracted everyone's attention. The chosen one and the other prodigies all looked at the son of all beasts. Chu Yang also looked at the son of all beasts. This thing, the way it appears, can be learned, Chu Yang thought. He felt that the way it appeared was very stylish. Chu Wudi, the moment I look at you, I feel like you're a friend of life and death with this humble one. The son of 10,000 beasts didn't even bother with the son of heaven and the others. He ignored all of them and directly smiled at Chu Yang. Is there a problem with my judgment? When Chu Yang heard this, he couldn't help but look the son of all beasts up and down. He realized that this was the first interesting thing he had encountered in the immortal realm. Don't you think you're climbing up the social ladder? Chu Yang didn't hold back. His first sentence was very pretentious. Nonsense. The son of all beasts immediately jumped up. If he was thought this way from the start, wouldn't his status be even lower in the future? He firmly denied it and said, This thing, you're climbing up the social ladder, understand? Didn't you realize that I'm more masculine than you? When it comes to conquering women, you're definitely not my match. The son of all beasts was tall and muscular. The muscles on his body were like steel plates, shining with a bronze luster. His aura was like that of a prehistoric beast, fierce and wild. Chapter 1658. Tisk. Chu Yang acted as if there was no one else around and said disdainfully, Just by looking at you, I know that you have low self-esteem in that area. Extremely low self-esteem. You still have the face to show off in front of me. If you have the potential to be shameless, you can eat farts behind me. Who is low self-esteem? Who is extremely low self-esteem? You are low self-esteem, extremely low self-esteem. You are low self-esteem, extremely low self-esteem. The two of them fought like children. In the end, the son of all beasts couldn't take it anymore and shouted, Chu Plaything, why don't we have a match first? The son of 10,000 beasts was indignant. He widened his eyes and glared at Chu Yang. Then, he roared, Men, bring over 100 chicks. I want to see who's stronger. Fuck. Chu Yang was sweating like a waterfall. This plaything was even more unrestrained than him. In this short period of time, a flock of chicks appeared behind the son of all beasts, making everyone almost laugh out loud. Was the son of all beasts a clown invited by the absolute beginning ruler? Ha! Chu Yang finally couldn't help but laugh. There weren't many people who could talk nonsense with him like this. There were even fewer who could talk about the matters between men and women so casually. The son of all beasts could do it. As for the son of all beasts, Chu Yang was sure that he wouldn't do such a thing. He was extremely sure. Chu Yang was as sure as the son of all beasts was that the son of all beasts was so unreliable. Of course, there was no reason, just a feeling. Chu Yang could also say such things, but when it came to doing it, it was impossible. He wasn't at that level yet. Of course, the son of all beasts was the same. If you have the ability, you go first. Chu Yang laughed. The two of them acted as if no one was around and continued to tease each other. There was still such a move. The son of all beasts' eyes widened like copper bells. If you have the ability, you go first. You go first, I'll count it as 2 hours. Son of all beasts. Just like what Xiao Qiuyu said, he and Chu Wuti were birds of a feather. Chu Wuti, this despicable thing, had long known that he would never do such a stupid thing. You first, I'll count it as 4 hours. The son of all beasts gave them a taste of their own medicine and kicked the ball back to them. Are you sure? Son of all beasts. He was really not sure. After all, after being provoked by Chu Yang, he had thought of many ways, such as changing a place or setting up an isolation test. Could all of these be possible? Chu Wuti, you're so shameless. You're so immoral. You're destined to have no sons, only daughters. Thank you for the compliment. Chu Yang cupped his fists and said, Thank you for giving my daughter to me. Giving birth to a boy or a girl was the same for Chu Yang, so this curse was useless. Fuck. The son of all beasts had been defeated again and again, so he was furious. He rolled up his sleeves and pointed at Chu Yang. I can't win against you in a battle of words, so I'm not happy. I'm going to smash your face. You're really despicable. You know you're going to be beaten, yet you still do it without hesitation. Chu Yang laughed happily. He liked to meet this kind of joker. Of course. The son of all beasts proudly admitted that he was no match for Chu Yang and said, People of my generation must remember the word shameless. Even if we can't, we have to pretend that we can. Only when we're beaten, until we're crying for our parents, can we show how special we are. Such words made everyone present have an unforgettable understanding of the son of all beasts. He was completely placed in the ranks of shameless and shameless. How many people could be as shameless as him? I agree to your request. Chu Yang impatiently waved his hand at him and said, Get lost. Let me fight first, I want to beat up all the prodigies in the immortal realm. Bullshit. The son of all beasts pointed at the destined child and the others and cursed, That Ma Zi, who do you think you are? What right do you have to make me wait? Chapter 1659. Crazy enough, Chu Yang liked it. Ha ha. He laughed loudly. You don't understand. It's shameful to waste. There are also resources that can be recycled and reused in trash. If you waste it like this, won't your wife scold you for being a wastrel? The two of them laughed and scolded wantonly, treating the other prodigies as nothing. No, it was trash. They were discussing the remaining value of trash. That makes sense. The son of all beasts nodded and admitted. It's just useful trash. We can pick it up whenever we want. How can it delay us from drinking? Ha ha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. If we don't clean up the trash, are you going to drink among the trash? How boring. That makes sense. You're always right. The son of all beasts' eyes widened like copper bells. He scolded, Chu Wuti, can't you give me a chance to show off? You must prove that I'm a super big idiot. At this time, the son of destiny and the others were being belittled by Chu Yang and the son of all beasts again and again. They couldn't hold back the anger in their hearts. The son of destiny was the organizer of all the prodigies. He was the first to speak coldly. Son of all beasts, do you want to die together with Chu Wuti? You'd better think carefully. 5 Poissy sneered sinisterly. It doesn't matter whether you're there or not. Killing you won't waste much time. As he spoke, 5 Poissy suddenly flicked his finger at the son of all beasts. A multicolored line, like the trajectory of the sky, directly pierced towards the son of all beasts. Chi chi chi. Wherever the multicolored line passed, it made people feel as if the void was like a big tree, as if it had already withered. Humph! The son of all beasts sneered. With a snap, he grabbed the multicolored line with his hand and directly caught it as if he had caught a poisonous snake. No matter how terrifying the poison in the multicolored line was, it couldn't do anything to him. With a squeeze of his hand, the multicolored thread was like a poisonous snake that was crushed to death, instantly vanishing without a sound. A venomous bug dares to be so presumptuous in front of me? You must have eaten lard and lost your mind. The son of all beasts was extremely disdainful. Chu Yang was not surprised by this. Since the son of all beasts dared to appear and act so arrogantly, how could he not have any ability? The pupils of the child of destiny and the others shrank. The child of light couldn't hold back and threatened, "Son of all beasts, you better think carefully, or else it'll be too late for regrets." Huo Wuxuang also sneered and said, "Although you have the scapegoat talisman on you, it can only be used once. When you enter the starting ground again, you will die. For a person you have never met, you are willing to offend so many of us." Feng Xinglei sneered, "Son of all beasts, is this how you make your choice? I wonder if your father would be angered to death by your stupidity if he knew." "Motherfucker!" The son of all beasts was enraged. Forget about insulting his intelligence, why did he have to bring up his father? Swoosh! He moved fiercely, and the roar of a beast shook the heavens. He suddenly moved with extreme speed and appeared in front of Feng Xinglei in an instant, raising his hand to strike. Bang bang bang! Rumble! A muffled sound erupted first, followed by rolling thunder. However, it soon stopped, and only the son of all beasts was left cursing, "You brainless thing, am I someone you can judge? Am I someone you can mock?" Bang bang bang! Feng Xinglei was actually unable to retaliate in front of the son of all beasts. His lightning and wind power could not do anything to the son of all beasts at all. The son of all beasts was like a wind and thunder divine beast, and wind and thunder were his innate talents. He completely suppressed Feng Xinglei, and with a curse, he beat him violently. Feng Xinglei exploded and was brought out of the starting ground by the scapegoat talisman. Everyone was shocked, and many of the sky prides were shocked. Chu Yang was also a little shocked. This thing's nose was really something. Chapter 1660. The son of all beasts was also incomparably arrogant, treating all the sky prides as trash and telling them to scram. There was only one word to describe it: crazy. Crazy people came out in large numbers. After Chu Kuangren, there was another crazy person. All of them were crazy to the point of boundless arrogance, completely ignoring all the heroes present. Many of the spectators felt that this trip to the starting ground was definitely worth it. They had definitely made the right choice in coming here. Needless to say, just seeing these crazy people jumping out one after another was enough to make them very satisfied. At that moment, Chu Wudi was still dealing with the underworld child, but he was doing it with ease. He could talk and laugh as he pleased, split his attention, and do all kinds of actions as he pleased. Although they were not participants in such a flourishing era, they were at least spectators who had personally experienced it. They did not miss such a brilliant scene in the flourishing era. The child of destiny, the child of light, the 5 poisons, and the others all looked very gloomy. They felt that Chu Yang was the leader of this era and wanted to attack him as a group. However, the son of all beasts also put on the face of a leader of this era. How could they endure this? They admitted that they were inferior to Chu Yang, but the son of all beasts thought that he could be on par with Chu Yang. Did this not mean that they were inferior? In an instant, their hatred for the son of all beasts far exceeded Chu Yang's, and their murderous intent overflowed. They wanted to see how capable the son of all beasts was to dare to look down on them and be superior to them. Chu Yang's entanglement with the underworld child finally ended at this time. The underworld child seemed to have his own time limit when he entered the corpse of 3 lives state, or perhaps there was a limit to what he could endure. He had just woken up and did not understand what had happened at all. He was completely stunned and stood there dumbfounded. His opponent had no intention of paying attention to him at all. The underworld child did not make a sound as he secretly observed the situation around him. Humph, it's just a claptrap. The food of the manor of 10,000 beasts is best at this. At that moment, a disdainful voice came from a corner. It was extremely disdainful of the son of all beasts, and its words were full of disdain and even resentment towards the son of all beasts. Schwa! Everyone's eyes immediately swept over. At the same time, there was a loud rumbling sound, like the sound of thunder, and a man walked out of the crowd. At this time, his aura erupted, terrifying to the heavens. The void and earth trembled, his body releasing heaven overflowing draconic energy, his strength world shocking. Ryuko Akagi, underworld child and child of destiny, were the first to recognize this person. At the same time, the crowd also recognized this person. In the starting ground, there were too many geniuses who came and gathered there. There were also many who silently hid among the crowd, not showing themselves. As many things happened in the starting ground, those hidden geniuses began to reveal themselves one after another. Ryuko Akagi was a renowned genius of the Crimson Dragon tribe. As a member of the Dragon tribe, his physical body was incomparably strong and his divine power was astounding. It could be said that his physical body was unparalleled. It's actually Ryuko Akagi. We're in for a good show. The enmity between the 10,000 Beasts sect and the Crimson Dragon tribe has lasted for many years. Now that the representatives of both sides meet again, it will definitely be a life and death battle. How come now? I heard that Ryuko Akagi and the son of all beasts have long been in conflict, and Ryuko Akagi is extremely disdainful of the son of all beasts. He once said that he would teach the son of all beasts how to cook in minutes. Not only that, the founder of the 10,000 Beasts sect had a great enmity with the Crimson Dragon tribe since the beginning. I even heard that he almost exterminated the Crimson Dragon tribe. Hearing the discussions, Chu Yang thought to himself, so, they have long had old grudges. He roughly understood what was going on from the words of the crowd. The 10,000 Beasts sect was called a divine sect, but in truth, it was just a mountain villa called the 10,000 Beasts Mountain Villa. It was passed down in the form of a family, but it had many subordinates, which was why it was called the 10,000 Beasts sect. The founder of the 10,000 Beasts sect, which was the ancestor of the son of all beasts, was abandoned when he was born. Later on, he was raised by an extremely spiritual golden mountain sheep. Therefore, the ancestor of the son of all beasts had been close to beasts since he was young. Chapter 1661. After the ancestor of the son of 10,000 beasts achieved success and fame, he once returned to see the golden goats that had raised him, as well as the various beasts he had played with when he was young. However, he discovered that not only had many of them become food for a crimson dragon, they had also been wantonly enslaved. The ancestor of the son of all beasts was furious. His heart was filled with hatred, and he tortured and killed the red dragon. Afterwards, the red dragon clan retaliated furiously, and the enmity between the two erupted. The ancestor of the son of all beasts was close to beasts. He walked the path of beasts and wanted to be the king of beasts. Thus, his enmity with the Red Dragon clan was not only to vent his hatred, but also the beginning of his righteous path. In the end, the Red Dragon clan was defeated. They could not tolerate the humiliation of being enslaved. Most of them self-destructed, causing the entire Red Dragon clan to almost go extinct. Only a few of them managed to escape. Among them, a brilliant red dragon appeared. After ascending to the supreme position, it fought a great battle with the ancestor of the son of all beasts. Thus, the enmity between the two parties continued. This thing hasn't even washed its butt clean, yet it still dares to show off. It's going to be busy this time. Chu Yang smiled like a flower, making the son of all beasts furious. Damn it, he had come out to show off, but now he had been slapped in the face. How could he show off? Trash food, Do you dare to fight with me? I can kill you with one hand. Ryuko Akaji sneered. He did not hide the contempt in his words for the son of all beasts. The son of all beasts strode over and hooted, "Today, I want to eat dragon meat." TSK. After Chu Yang heard this, he despised him. You really know how to embarrass yourself. Can't you say it more skillfully? You should say it like this. Dragon, dragon, come to my bowl. Dong. The son of all beasts suddenly stopped in his tracks. His bell-like eyes were like two stars that smashed towards Chu Yang. His wild aura overflowed. Then, he deflated. You did say more skillfully. Why didn't I think of it just now? Roar! Like a wounded wolf, he howled. In my field of expertise, I'm actually not as good as this Chu guy. I'm so frustrated, I'm so hurt. Bullshit. Chu Yang was full of disdain once again. When it comes to food, you have the nerve to compare yourself to me. Let me ask you first, have you ranked the gourmet rankings yet? Have you ever had the world of gods on the tip of your tongue? Gourmet cuisine rankings. The world of gods on the tip of the tongue. Son of all beasts. Only then did he realize that this thing in front of him had such a rich and exciting life. It made him pale in comparison. He even suddenly felt that his life was incomparably dull and monotonous. He had lived for almost 20 years, and it was as if he had lived for nothing. The son of all beasts was even more hurt. Roar! The two of them were so self-absorbed that they ignored everything else. Everyone else was fine with this. Wasn't it just arrogance? They were already familiar with this rhythm. However, how could Underworld Child of Heaven and the others, as well as Ryuko Akaji, endure this? What did they treat them as? They were actually acting so unbridled in front of them. They could no longer remain calm. You're really good at showing off. When I step on you later, I wonder what kind of face you'll have. I'm sure that the feeling of being unable to show your face will be incomparably deep. Ryuko Akaji's figure was tall and straight. His entire body emitted a crystalline luster. His face could be considered handsome. His skin was fair and his nose bridge was high. His eyes were slightly sunken. He wore a fiery red armor and stood in the air like a javelin. His majestic appearance was heroic and his eyes were full of divine light. He was incomparably intimidating. Every word of disdain he uttered was like a flame or a blade. Chapter 1662. He's not good enough. I don't need you to freaking worry about me. The son of all beasts felt that Xiao Chuyu's bullshit was too accurate. Even though they had just met, he was actually considerate of him. There was nothing wrong with saying that they were birds of a feather. Tisk, when I'm beaten into a pig's head, I'll beat you up first before I make a move. Chu Yang retorted. Bullshit, how can I be beaten into a pig's head by a bug? The son of all beasts' long hair reached his waist. Brilliant radiance flowed around his body as he walked toward Ryuko Akaji. His footsteps were steady, extremely steady. The aura in his body became stronger and stronger, as if he was made of divine gold. He emitted an immortal divine radiance, and his vigorous blood energy was restrained to the extreme. Ryuko Akaji remained motionless in the air. He raised his right hand and pointed at the son of all beasts, saying, Food, you're the most inferior food. It's your honor to be devoured by me. If Chu Yang and the son of all beasts were arrogant, Ryuko Akaji was definitely not to be outdone. This was even more vivid in his words. He cast a sidelong glance at the son of all beasts, cold and arrogant. He did not treat the son of all beasts as a real opponent at all. He was like a hunter facing a ferocious tiger. Hua! A commotion broke out in the crowd. Ryuko Akaji was also extremely conceited and arrogant. Amidst the commotion, Chu Yang observed Ryuko Akaji even more carefully. The ancient dragon bloodline in Ryuko Akaji's body felt extremely ancient. He could even feel a primordial aura. I don't think I've eaten a dragon before, especially one with an ancient bloodline that can be traced back to primordial times. Chu Yang couldn't help but drool as he imagined it. His undisguised swallowing sound immediately attracted everyone's attention. Ryuko Akagi's red eyes immediately swept over. They were like two vast oceans, filled with killing intent. The son of all beasts was truly speechless. He realized that Chu Yang was truly treating Ryuko Akagi as a supreme delicacy. He was truly 100 times, no, 1,000 times more ferocious than him. Everyone could only shake their heads and smile bitterly at Chu Yang. This lord was not only arrogant in his words, but also in his heart. My ancestor entered the Tao by torturing dragons. Unfortunately, your level is not high enough. You can only become an ingredient, the son of all beasts said unhurriedly. He was sure that if he couldn't beat Ryuko Akagi, he would definitely be laughed at for 10,000 years by the like-minded Chu Guy. This was absolutely unacceptable. Ryuko Akagi's red hair was sparkling and translucent. His body was also emitting light. His entire body was shrouded in red clouds. His dormant and boundless vitality began to surge. His dragon blood was extremely pure. It emitted energy fluctuations that intimidated everyone. There was also a primordial aura that rushed out. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if two primordial worlds had appeared. His gaze was like lightning. The corners of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth just because you're food. Such stupidity is something I've never seen before. At this moment, he finally moved. He pressed forward step by step in the void. The red blood aura in his body also began to surge out. It was so terrifying that it caused the heavens and earth to tremble slightly. Dragons had always been a noble existence in the world. They represented strength. No one could ignore them or look down on them. At this moment, Ryuko Akagi's movements were like a dragon striding forward. He was originally a colossus. He had merely transformed into a human. What is a dragon? It's an existence that you lowly people worship. It's the object of your worship. You're proud of dragons. How dare you be disrespectful to me and even show off in front of me? Ryuko Akagi's voice became colder as he moved. He displayed endless dominance and nobility. He looked down on the son of all beasts with a lofty attitude. He did not think that the son of all beasts was qualified to be compared to him. Chapter 1663. When Chu Yang heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly. As far as he was concerned, he adored dragons from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to get close to them and even worship them. For example, the Azure Dragon of the East was a true dragon in the consciousness of his previous life. However, at this moment, Ryuko Akagi's behavior made him feel endless disgust toward dragons. He even had the thought of catching a dragon and raising it as a dog. However, if people in his previous life knew about this, he would be drowned in their saliva. After all, he was the descendant of dragons. My consciousness is in chaos. This is not the culture of dragons in my previous life. If I were to replace myself with the heavenly spirit world or the gods world, I would really become a fool. Chu Yang mocked himself, but he had to admit that dragons were incomparably powerful no matter which world they were in. They were the favored children of heaven and earth. The son of heaven, the son of light, and Huo Wushuang couldn't help but sneer at this moment. Ryuko Akagi is a member of the dragon race, so he should say such words. Crush that so-called son of all beasts and let him understand how stupid he is. Chu Yang smiled. These people were looking down on the son of all beasts too much. The ancestors of the son of all beasts could almost exterminate the red dragon race. How could they not have some tricks up their sleeves? As for Ryuko Akagi's bossy and domineering attitude, so what? If he wanted to be bossy and domineering, Ryuko Akagi was nothing but a dog fart. However, he was still unhappy. As the descendant of dragons, this kind of dragon completely destroyed his beautiful image of being a dragon. It was as if his wife was turned into a super ugly monster, which disgusted him to no end. Wanwan, how about you give this thing to me? With all kinds of thoughts in mind, Chu Yang opened his mouth. Wanwan! The son of all beasts instantly glared. The lethality of these two words was far more powerful than Ryuko Akagi's provocation. It directly formed a psychological shadow in his heart. Bastard, immediately change it for me. What kind of damn name is this? Where is my image? He was on the verge of stamping his feet. If the parrot were here, he would definitely be able to understand how he felt. That's not important, Chu Yang said. I don't like this thing and want to beat him up. Otherwise, I'll feel uncomfortable. How is that not the main point? The son of all beasts immediately jumped up. That's the main point. I'm not calling you Wanwan. If you dare to call me that again, I'll fight it out with you. Beastie, this should be fine, right? Chu Yang was very helpless. Was there a need for such a big reaction? The son of all beasts felt dizzy. Wasn't this even more ridiculous? His gaze could practically eat Chu Yang up. Chu Yang couldn't help but shrug. Then what do you want? What do you want? Ryuko Akagi's face instantly turned red as the two of them argued like children. His earlier battle of words and swords had all turned into bullshit. He had been ignored for the first time in history. Get lost. The ingredients are your chef. Are they waiting to be decided? Ryuko Akagi's outburst of anger affected Chu Yang. Chu Yang impatiently threw out a sentence, then pointed at the son of all beasts and said, You're either Wanwan or Beastie. If you dare to waste my brain cells again, I'll teach you how to be a human. Hey bastard. You're so uncultured, yet you still think you're in the right? The son of all beasts was about to roll up his sleeves again, but he realized that his sleeves had already been rolled up. He directly spat and said, Bastard, why don't you try and see who's going to teach who how to be a human? Who are you calling a bastard? The omission of bastard is a bastard. You're a bastard. Bang. Chu Yang repeatedly punched the son of all beasts' eyes twice, causing the son of all beasts to have two panda eyes. Motherfucker. The son of all beasts was enraged. He directly attacked Chu Yang, and the two of them started fighting. Everyone present was stunned. They were not young anymore, yet they were actually fighting over such a trivial matter. These two jokers were beyond the imagination of all living things. Huff, huff, huff. Pung, pung, pung. The son of the red dragon panted heavily, causing the void to rumble. Two streams of air and flames came out of his nostrils like two volcanic eruptions. Chapter 1664. I didn't see anyone fighting. Why are you stealing my show? Little bug, get out of my way. Chu Yang was even more annoyed by Ryuko Akagi's anger. Not to mention the child of Crimson Dragon, even the child of Destiny, the child of Five Poisons, and the child of Light were infuriated. Did they still think they were alive? Did they still think they existed? Bastard Chu, let's talk about this later. I'll clean up the dragon meat first. It won't be too late for us to fight later. It was just a simple exchange of blows, but the son of all beasts immediately sensed Chu Yang's abnormality. He took the opportunity to escape and shouted, We'll fight while we stew the dragon meat. After we're done, we can eat the dragon meat. It won't take long to deal with you. Bullshit, that was a sneak attack. The son of all beasts didn't care about Chu Yang's bullshit. After saving his face, he looked at Ryuko Akagi from head to toe and commented, You look good. You look delicious. As he spoke, he cursed in his heart, Damn Eggy, you're really abnormal. Your body is even more terrifying than mine. In order to hide his inferiority, the son of all beasts quickly added, I like ingredients like you. Who was arrogant? Who was the arrogant one? Everyone immediately had an answer in their hearts. Ryuko Akagi was very arrogant, But the son of all beasts was even more arrogant, and Chuwudi was even more arrogant. Ryuko Akaji's arrogance was like that of an underage child. Compared to the son of all beasts, especially Chu Yang, it was like a firefly competing with the sun and the moon. He was overestimating himself. After the extreme anger, Ryuko Akaji calmed down. However, his expression was extremely cold. He once again spoke in a condescending manner. Food? When I first saw you, I said that the next time I see you, I will definitely teach you how to cook food. This promise is still valid. This was not only a type of conceit, but also a type of extreme arrogance. However, his counterattack was really too weak, unable to cause any ripples in people's hearts. He seemed to know this as well, but he didn't care. His face revealed a callous expression as he said, "Food, remember this. I'm here to teach you how to make food, not to fight to the death with you. You don't have the qualifications to do so." His tone was very arrogant, but no one felt anything. This kind of arrogance paled in comparison to that of Chu Yang and the son of all beasts. However, the anger of the son of all beasts flared up. After hearing this, he felt even more displeased, and the flames of anger were burning fiercely. After carefully examining the grievances between the two races, it was the Crimson Dragon race that had started it. Now, Ryuko Akaji was still being unreasonable with him. What the hell was this? However, in the eyes of the Children of Destiny and the spectators, Ryuko Akaji could indeed do so. This was because Ryuko Akaji did indeed have the capital and confidence to do so. Only the supreme prodigies of the 10,000 Beasts race could contend against the Crimson Dragon race. However, any one of the Crimson Dragon race's members had terrifying strength. After all, the Dragon race was the Dragon race. Compared to ordinary humans, they were naturally much stronger. This was especially true for those with the dragon bloodline of the primordial era. If not for the ancestors of the son of all beasts slaughtering the Crimson Dragon race to the point of near extinction, the 10,000 Beasts sect would probably have been destroyed long ago. Chapter 1665. Boom. In the next moment, a sonorous dragon roar pierced the entire night sky. A great battle had broken out. Ryuko Akaji moved like a massive dragon. He was like a divine rainbow storming over at an extremely fast speed. After one step, he disappeared from his spot and reappeared in front of the son of all beasts. His fists were covered in red flames as he pounded on his opponent. The air exploded, and that part of the void also seemed to have been blasted apart. His fist spewed out endless flames, and violent energy surged out. It was terrifying and astonishing, as if a huge volcano was erupting. Black smoke, raging flames, and even magma seemed to have completely submerged that area. If it were an ordinary person, let alone an incipient God Realm expert, even a high God Realm expert wouldn't be able to resist it. He would be smashed into a blood mist and vanish in this world. Ryuko Akaji used his Thunder Strike as soon as he attacked. It seemed he wanted to kill the son of all beasts to establish his prestige in front of people. He wanted to use his iron-blooded means to announce that his Red Dragon tribe was much stronger than the 10,000 Beasts Villa. Harumph! The son of all beasts was enraged. He didn't want to dodge. His right fist glowed dazzlingly and shot out dazzling gold light. When he punched, the bleating of a goat reverberated in this area. Many people were surprised that the son of all beasts was using a goat to deal with a dragon. However, this was the reality. In the void, the son of all beasts punched out. The phantom of a golden goat appeared and immediately rushed forward, colliding head-on with the son of the red dragon. This punch was also intimidating with peerless power. Golden Goat Fist. Anyone who knew the foundation of the 10,000 Beasts divine sect knew that the son of all beasts' ancestor had created this fist technique to commemorate the golden goat that had raised him. If they looked down on this fist technique because it was related to a goat, their end would be tragic. Perhaps they would be like the other red dragons of the Red Dragon tribe. They would be smashed to death by this punch. Rumble. At the place where the son of all beasts and Ryuko Akagi were fighting, it was as if thunder had descended, erupting with deafening booms. The 100 or so women, as well as the people from the 10,000 Beasts sect, were extremely nervous. They were afraid that the son of all beasts would not be able to withstand this punch, because Ryuko Akagi was one realm higher than the son of all beasts. The son of all beasts was at incipient god realm and Ryuko Akagi was at mid-god realm. The mid-deity realm was the highest realm allowed in the starting ground. Previously, when Ryuko Akagi met the son of all beasts for the first time, he had said that he wanted to educate the son of all beasts. One of the main reasons for this was that the son of all beasts had a lower cultivation level. This was still the case even now. As for the son of heaven and the others, they were either sneering or mocking at this moment. They were incomparably relaxed. Ryuko Akagi was from the Dragon clan. His innate talent was higher than the son of all beasts. Moreover, his cultivation level was higher. They did not think that the son of all beasts could resist Ryuko Akagi. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Moreover, the outcome of these two battles had nothing to do with them. What they cared about was Chu Yang. While the son of all beasts and Ryuko Akagi were fighting, all their attention was on Chu Yang. Of course, Chu Yang was a little suspicious because he did not know the specific situation of the son of all beasts. For example, when the son of all beasts made a bleeding sound when he punched, it had surprised him. The result had also surprised him. The fist skill that made the bleeding sound was terrifying and incomparably violent. It did not match the sound of a gentle goat at all. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. The collision of energy was like a thunderclap. The void was shaking violently as if a magnitude 12 earthquake was happening. At the same time, the two of them were exchanging blows. Beams of terrifying red and gold light shot out in all directions. Chapter 1666. At the same time, both of them were hit by a violent impact. Their fists collided, and terrifying physical strength exploded. Thunderclaps rang out incessantly, and their long hair fluttered behind them. They blocked it. The people of the All Beasts sect heaved a sigh of relief. How could this be? The Son of Destiny and the Son of Light were shocked. Ryuko Akagi was from the Dragon clan, and he had the bloodline of the primordial Dragon clan. His physical strength was extremely terrifying, and few people in the same realm could match him. Moreover, Ryuko Akagi was one realm higher than the son of all beasts. Logically speaking, Qi Longzi's incomparably ferocious punch should at least be able to gain the upper hand in a head-on clash of physical bodies. However, the two of them were actually evenly matched. They were puzzled. Their eyes widened, and their earlier relaxed expressions disappeared. Their smiles froze on their faces. Obviously, they had realized how amazing the son of all beasts was. If the son of all beasts could defeat Ryuko Akagi, he would be another formidable opponent. Rumble! The ground exploded, and rocks were swept up like waves, flying into the air. Bang! Both of them retreated, and the next attack was even more terrifying. In the dazzling red and golden light, the two figures fought fiercely. They were so fast that no one could see them clearly. They could only vaguely see that they were constantly bombarding each other. As their hands and feet collided, the light that erupted was like lightning intertwining. Roar! Ryuko Akagi's body roared continuously. His unparalleled physical strength and various powerful Dragon clan battle techniques were easily blocked. Moreover, he was one realm higher, but he couldn't immediately kill the opponent he despised. His heart was immediately drowned by a sea of anger. Dragon, dragon, dragon! The son of all beasts roared. Immediately, a shocking dragon roar erupted from his body. The dragon's might he displayed was not inferior to Ryuko Akaji's. He seemed to have transformed into a real dragon. Ho ho ho! Another tiger roar rang out as the true dragon and tiger materialized and coiled around the son of all beasts' fist. The dragon and tiger contended for supremacy like fire and water, like the sun and moon. They carried an incomparable aura as the roars of the dragon and tiger shook the heaven and earth. Bang! In the head-on clash, Ryuko Akaji was no match for him and was sent flying. He staggered as he staggered. Suddenly, his eyes turned extremely cold and he let out a dragon roar. The surrounding soil, stones, and dust all transformed into dragons of different sizes. They also let out dragon roars. His blood and chi had also turned into dragons. 2 light dragons were moving in and out of his mouth and nose. An endless primitive aura surged out. This was the activation of the primordial dragon race's bloodline. Whether it was the chosen one or the other heaven's chosen ones, all of them were shocked. The ordinary spectators were even more frightened. They all felt that Ryuko Akaji was incomparably powerful. Art of Dragon Transformation. This is the art of dragon transformation. Someone shouted out the art Ryuko Akaji was using in shock. It was the supreme art of the dragon race, the art of dragon transformation. The art of dragon transformation was not only limited to the Crimson Dragon race, it was a supreme art of the entire dragon race. Its power was boundless. When cultivated to the extreme, it could turn all things into dragons. This art was created by an ancestral dragon of the dragon race. He hoped to turn the entire world into the dragon world and make the dragon race the most supreme race in the world. No one could shake his position, but he failed in the end. It was said that this ancestral dragon did not lose to the heavens or the earth. He lost to the supreme experts of other races. It was said that they were the supreme experts of the gods' world and heavenly spirit world. They worked together to stop this ancestral dragon and killed him. Therefore, the art of dragon transformation did not only exist in the gods' world, but also in the heavenly spirit world. Chapter 1667. While Chu Yang was observing the battle, he heard that the technique of transforming all things into dragons could actually refine the entire world and make it his own. His eyelids couldn't help but twitch as he thought to himself, "This ancestral dragon's heart is extraordinarily big. This isn't the art of dragon transformation created by the ancestral dragon. The real art of dragon transformation has been completely destroyed." That's right. If it was the real art of dragon transformation, its power wouldn't be limited to this. The real art of dragon transformation is far more terrifying than this. According to the ancient records, when the ancestral dragon used the art of dragon transformation, the world immediately changed, as if the end of the world had arrived. This should be the art of dragon transformation created by the Crimson Dragon clan. Chu Yang didn't know much about the various divine realms, but there were many people in the crowd who knew the secrets of the various divine realms. Immediately, he had an idea. When Ryuko Akaji and the son of all beasts were fighting, he made things difficult for the child of destiny and the others. Roar! He suddenly roared, causing the battle between the Scarlet Dragon son and the son of all beasts to come to a temporary halt. That immoral, shameless thing who peeked at the heavens. Not only did you peek at the heavens, but you're also rebelling with the great sinners. You deserve to die. Chu Yang was overjoyed when he pointed at the child of destiny. The child of destiny had just used the name of destiny to fabricate a crime and pin a big hat on him. He had finally returned the favor. He roared again, "And you, child of light, 5 poisons, Wu Wushuang, Feng Xinglei, all of you are great sinners who want to rebel against the heavens and help the evildoers. Have you asked your fathers and mothers for permission to commit such treason?" The child of destiny and the other geniuses' faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. Especially when they were faced with the strange gazes of the crowd, their hearts were filled with disgust. Even if it wasn't shit, it was shit. Although this kind of framing was very laughable, who asked them to stand on Qi Longzi's side with their attitude just now? This was like fighting at the edge of a manure pit. Even if he didn't fall into it, he would still smell like manure. That idiot! The chosen one and the others cursed in their hearts. Ryuko Akagi executed the art of dragon transformation and displayed the will of the ancestral dragon. Who would dare to approach him? Perhaps the entire Crimson Dragon clan would be targeted by all the clans in the divine world. Bastard Chu, no one steals the show like you do. I'm the main character. I'm the one at the center of the world. The son of all beasts roared furiously in the midst of the battle. He was simply flustered and exasperated. He had fought so hard, but in the end, all his glory had been snatched away by that bastard King Chu. On top of that, the bastard King Chu could even discuss the chosen ones. He felt extremely wronged. Can't help it. Chu Yang was still smug. He shrugged and spread his hands. I'm just that quick-witted, waha! Damn it, I'm going to fight you! The son of all beasts was so angry that he almost wanted to abandon Ryuko Akagi and rush down to fight Chu Yang. Everyone. They were truly convinced by the son of all beasts and Chu Yang. How thick-skinned must he be to be able to do this? The two of you are just afraid of angering everyone and being hunted down by the whole world. Many of the geniuses looked as if a bucket of manure had been poured over their heads. Some of them even looked as if they had eaten manure. They felt uncomfortable and sullen, and their teeth were clenched so hard that they made cracking sounds. According to the son of all beasts, they had become existences that set off Chu Yang's loftiness, majesty, and brilliance. They were completely clowns, the most ridiculous clowns. Chapter 1668. At this very moment, Ryuko Akagi had used the art of dragon transformation. It could be said to be incomparably dangerous, and even his pupils were shooting out endless red clouds. But who would have thought that the son of all beasts would actually be in such a bad mood at this time? Fury, endless fury completely drowned Ryuko Akagi. There was nothing more contemptuous than this. He had used the dragon race's most powerful art of dragon transformation. Although it wasn't the ancient art of dragon transformation, there was still a bit of the true intent of the ancient art of dragon transformation. Otherwise, how could dust and dust transform into dragons? It could be said that at this moment, his power was incomparably great, and the threat was extremely great. But he was being looked down upon like this. Bug, I'll kill you! At this moment, the one Ryuko Akagi hated the most was Chu Yang. He directly abandoned the son of all beasts and rushed in front of Chu Yang with a swoosh. He raised his fist and was about to smash Chu Yang. Awoo! The son of all beasts was completely flustered and exasperated. He didn't know what to say, so he just howled like a wolf. With a boom, he cut off Ryuko Akagi's path. At the same time, he cursed loudly. Ryuko Akagi, if I don't beat you to death, I won't be called Wanwan, I'll be called Shosho. He really couldn't bear it. Putting aside that Chu Yang had stolen the limelight, even Ryuko Akagi was actually ignoring him. Food scram! Boom! Ryuko Akagi was mad with hatred. No matter what, he had to kill that bastard Chu Yang. Therefore, facing the son of all beasts, he erupted with an extremely powerful attack. Countless small dragons appeared on his fist and wrapped around his fist. They even went in and out of his fist. His movements were as fast as lightning and contained a power that ordinary medium immortals couldn't resist. The ground didn't come into contact with his fist, but it completely collapsed as if it had been hit by a meteorite. The earth directly collapsed and a huge earth dragon rushed out. It was extremely terrifying. Scram my ass, I don't know how to scram. If you have the ability, why don't you show me how to scram? The son of all beasts was also in a state of panic. He used his own secret technique, and his entire body became sparkling and translucent. It was as if he was made of divine gold, and dazzling golden light erupted from him. Even his hair was shining. It was incomparably dazzling, and two terrifying golden beams of light flew out from his eyes. The astonishing power hibernating in his body was released, and his strength and speed rapidly increased. "Then I'll kill you first." Ryuko Akagi roared again and again. It was as if he was enveloped by the sun as he erupted with red flames that soared into the sky. With stubborn strength, he blasted towards the son of all beasts who was blocking his way. Meh meh! The cries of sheep once again resounded throughout the world. The son of all beasts struck out with the golden mountain sheep fist. At this moment, his body was blazing to the extreme, as if he was being burned. The sacred golden radiance enveloped him. Rumble! The two collided like two bolts of lightning, and also like two primordial mountains crashing into each other. The terrifying explosion shook the eardrums of many, causing them to tremble. The world seemed to be on the verge of shattering. "Food, go to hell!" Ryuko Akagi erupted with all his strength. Although he was only one person, it was as if 10,000 dragons were attacking the son of all beasts at the same time. He wanted to end the battle with a single punch and directly blow up the son of all beasts. The void was like a rag, and the earth was constantly collapsing. An abyss-like crater appeared. Rumble! In the end, amidst the dazzling light, blood splattered. A scarlet figure flew out and smashed into the ground like a meteor, his entire body covered in blood. Ryuko Akagi was no match. How is this possible? The children of destiny were incomparably shocked. Ryuko Akagi had used the universal dragonization art, but he was still no match. In midair, the son of all beasts' long golden hair draped over his shoulders. His body was brilliant and translucent, and there were even wisps of immortal energy emanating from his body. Apart from his tattered clothes, his body was flawless and unharmed. The difference in strength was obvious. Chapter 1669. The whole place was silent. The son of all beasts stood tall in the air. His body seemed to be made of immortal gold, and his divine might was peerless. At this moment, he seemed to be invincible. There was no trace of his previous frivolity, nor was there any hint of impropriety. The myriad beasts sect could not afford to lose the battle against the Crimson Dragon tribe. Similarly, the Crimson Dragon tribe was the same. In the distance, Ryuko Akagi was smashed into a deep pit. His whole body was covered in blood, and his body was spasming. There was even a hole in his chest, from which dragon blood was gushing out. Whether it was the child of heaven, child of underworld, child of light, child of five poisons, or the others, they were all shocked. As a member of the dragon tribe, Ryuko Akagi had an incomparably strong body, but he had actually lost so miserably. Earlier, some people were still mocking the son of all beasts and looking down on the son of all beasts, thinking that he would lose without a doubt. However, during the course of the battle, they were frozen on the spot. Some even felt cold from head to toe. Ryuko Akagi had used the art of dragon transformation, but he was still defeated. Blood splattered everywhere. Ryuko Akagi is a true dragon, and one that's a whole realm higher. How could he lose so easily? Even now, some people still found it hard to believe. They were unwilling to accept this fact from the bottom of their hearts. Dragons surpassed many other races, and represented strength. Just like Chuyang, who thought he was the descendant of dragons, if it was in his previous life, he would also not be able to accept it. This son of all beasts is actually so strong? Among the Sky Prides, the son of all beasts had to re-evaluate the son of all beasts. The strength of the son of all beasts had exceeded their expectations. The ordinary spectators were even more shocked. The son of all beasts said that the other geniuses were all trash. Looks like he wasn't just spouting nonsense. There shouldn't be many who can defeat Ryuko Akagi, and those who can defeat Ryuko Akagi so quickly are even fewer. In the field, the son of all beasts stepped forward. His eyes were brilliant and terrifying. At this moment, he was very pleased with himself as he approached Ryuko Akagi. At this moment, Ryuko Akagi finally let out a hysterical roar. His body was covered in blood as he suddenly looked up with a terrifying expression. He was full of hatred and anger, his killing intent boundless. Why was he defeated? He couldn't accept such an outcome. Ingredient, do you have any last words? The son of all beasts approached and smiled, revealing his white teeth. Food, are you looking down on me? Ryuko Akagi roared and shot up into the sky. The bloody hole in his chest was originally the size of a fist, but it shrank rapidly and healed in an instant. It was incomparably shocking. Many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, feeling deeply terrified. The flesh of the dragon race was indeed ridiculously powerful, almost instantly recovering. It was really too terrifying. The Dragon Clan is the Dragon Clan. Their strength is not just on the surface. Some of the Heaven's Prides were also amazed. They felt that there was no clear winner or loser in this battle. However, the Child of Destiny and the others didn't say anything. TSK. The son of all beasts looked down on them. The Dragon Clan was indeed powerful, but in order to recover from such an injury, he would have to pay an extremely heavy price. Chu Yang also shook his head. This was a typical case of wanting to save face to suffer. The price Ryuko Akagi had to pay was definitely beyond imagination. Ryuko Akagi's scarlet eyes were full of resentment. Before the battle, he was so confident that he didn't take the son of all beasts seriously at all. But in just a few moves, he was heavily injured. Chapter 1670. These words deeply agitated Ryuko Akagi. His body couldn't help but tremble. He was a grand dragon. Was he really going to become an ingredient in the mouth of a lowly human? Was he going to be digested and turned into shit? I'll tear you apart. Ryuko Akagi roared. Dragon blood flowed out of his pores and ignited into flames. He had used a forbidden secret art of the dragon race to exhaust his origin and forcibly restore himself to his peak. Roar. A dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. He was like a scarlet meteor carrying a terrifying aura as he charged towards the son of all beasts. Ingredient, you've already lost. What's the point of struggling? The son of all beasts said in a lazy voice. He didn't take Ryuko Akagi's desperate counterattack seriously. He used the golden mountain goat fist once more. Immediately, a golden mountain goat appeared behind him. Its aura wasn't boundless and was incomparably ordinary. However, it was incomparably warm, as if one was looking at their own mother. The son of all beasts' ancestor had considered this golden mountain goat to be his mother. The mother who had raised him had branded his will in this heaven and earth. Once it was used, its might was unimaginable. The son of all beasts' ancestor is definitely a sentimental person. I really want to meet him. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. The mark that the ancestor of the son of 10,000 beasts had left in the world was no different from the mark that Huo had left in the world when he had fought against Huo. The difference was that the son of all beasts' imprint was much stronger than the flame worship overlords. This originated from gratitude. Boom! An intense collision ensued between the two. Boundless light burst forth as boundless energy surged out. Ryuko Akagi was still not a match. He was once again sent flying while coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Just as the son of all beasts had said, Ryuko Akagi had already been defeated. With a loud boom, Ryuko Akagi crashed into a mountainous area, causing it to crumble and send dust flying into the air. On the other side, the son of all beasts gave chase and wanted to kill Ryuko Akagi. He had wasted too much time and was afraid that crazy Xiao Chuyu would be angry. Bang! He stomped his foot down. Ryuko Akagi quickly dodged and counterattacked with all his might. His dragon power surged and flames burned the sky. Boom! The earth exploded. Under the trampling of the son of all beasts, rocks and soil flew in all directions, and a deep crater immediately appeared. Bang bang bang! Ryuko Akagi continued to resist. His arms and legs clashed with the son of all beasts, and he was at a disadvantage again and again. His face revealed an expression of extreme pain. Am I going to die just because I lost? How is that possible? Ryuko Akagi felt extremely humiliated. Although he had the scapegoat talisman, how could he still have the face to live in this world after such an outcome? Bang! The son of all beasts punched out again and sent him flying. At the same time, he caught up and stomped down. With a puff, Ryuko Akagi's chest caved in and blood gushed out. Everyone was in an uproar. This was simply a one-sided slaughter. Up until now, the son of all beasts had not revealed his trump card and Ryuko Akagi was already in such a miserable state. Ryuko Akagi's face was already distorted. Between shock and anger, his eyes were already scarlet as he suddenly let out an earth-shattering dragon roar. With a boom, he transformed into his true form. A red dragon rushed into the sky and spat out flames at the son of all beasts. The flames covered the sky and covered the earth, as if they were going to melt the area. This was his last resort. In his dragon form, his battle prowess was even stronger, but his enormous body was too large. It was difficult for him to dodge the son of all beasts' attacks and become an easy target. But now, what difference was there between him and a target? Fiery light overflowed into the sky, and the ground where the battle took place turned into a land of red magma. However, Qi Longzi clearly knew that this couldn't do anything to his opponent at all, because his opponent was even stronger. How could he be burned to death by mere flames? Chapter 1671. Whoosh! He escaped. Even with the scapegoat talisman, he still escaped. Ryuko Akagi wanted to prove that even if he was no match for him, he could still escape. Tisk! Chu Yang said with disdain. Food? Aren't you going to teach food how to make good food at any time? Why are you running away? Ryuko Akagi felt his face burning. He was so ashamed that he was about to go crazy. The result was too humiliating. The arrogant words he had said had now become the fiercest slap to his face. The Son of Destiny and the others were speechless. They had no way to speak up for Ryuko Akagi. Disregarding everything else, just the art of dragon transformation was enough for them to draw a line between themselves and Ryuko Akagi. Bastard, I will remember every word you say. Sooner or later, I will make you wish you were dead. Ryuko Akagi couldn't wait to eat Chu Yang. This bastard was 10,000 times more evil than the son of all beasts. He wanted to dig out his heart and liver and tear off his face. Io, you forgot the pain when your scar hasn't healed. Chu Yang said carelessly, even you, Wanwan, are no match for him. You were beaten like a dog, but you still dare to yell at me. I really admire your intelligence. Bastard Chu, my name is not Wanwan. The son of all beasts felt that he was really a tragedy. Not only was his spotlight stolen, he was also called such a childish name. He had just finished speaking when he felt so sullen that he roared again. Also, you bastard, stop stealing the show. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The earth trembled as Ryuko Akagi flew close to the ground. Everywhere he passed, the earth turned into magma. Red waves surged and flames soared into the sky. Wanwan, the worm is running away, Chu Yang said again, sincerely angering the son of all beasts. Bastard Chu, didn't I tell you not to steal the show? Don't you understand human language? The son of all beasts was fuming with rage. In his fury, he chased after Ryuko Akagi and punched out. With a loud boom, He shattered Ryuko Akagi's head and ended its life. Specks of light appeared and finally turned into a dragon. It ignored the son of all beasts and glared at Chu Yang viciously before disappearing. If you want to eat a dragon, you can only eat a fart this time. Chu Yang was depressed. He was too unhappy with the death substitution talisman. You eat fart. The son of all beasts flew back and cursed at Chu Yang. His spittle flew everywhere as he was extremely agitated. Chu Yang was simply a bastard. The son of all beasts was the one who defeated Ryuko Akagi, but in the end, the one Ryuko Akagi hated the most was this bastard Chu. What was this? Was there any justice in this world? Wanwan, that's enough. Chu Yang hated his spittle and said impatiently, "Do I need to steal your little limelight? Grandpa wouldn't want such prestige even if you gave it to me. If you don't want it, then why did you fart just now?" The son of all beasts roared even louder. Chu Yang's eardrums were about to burst. "My mouth was itchy," Chu Yang said and added, "and I want to eat dragon meat." After that, he thought of something else. "Also, I'm teaching you how to cooperate with me in the future." After saying that, he stretched out his hand and said to the son of all beasts, "Wanwan, please pay the tuition fee." What the fuck? The son of all beasts couldn't stand this bastard and directly attacked. The two of them fought, and the people who saw this scene were completely petrified and couldn't say a word. The son of all beasts was beaten black and blue and had nowhere to vent. He shouted at the son of light and the others, "Trash, I told you to scram long ago. Why aren't you scramming? Do you want to die? Looks like you want to die together with the rebel of the heavens." The son of Destiny's expression was extremely ugly. He was actually treated as trash by the son of all beasts and told to scram. And not just once, but twice. "Son of all beasts, if you want to die, we can fulfill your wish." "That's right. I'll kill you once first, then kill you again. I'll kill you completely." Chapter 1672. What should happen would happen eventually, but what should be done might not necessarily be done. Chu Yang did not respond at first. He was still very happy, not because he was happy, but because he wanted to be happy. The son of all beasts was unhappy because of the son of destiny and the others. He soon realized that the reason he was unhappy was because he wanted to be unhappy, and he was unhappy. "This is my business, not yours, so you're happy?" The son of all beasts really hated Chu Yang's smiling face. "When I'm willful, I'm not even afraid of myself. Would you believe me?" Chu Yang said with a smile. He could do whatever he wanted. There were no pros and cons, no rationality, no foolishness, as long as he was happy. In the world of gods, it was as if he had entered a game world. The son of all beasts became mute. What a powerful reason. He was actually speechless. The son of destiny and the others hated Chu Yang's smile even more than the son of all beasts. Their eyes turned cold and murderous. Especially the son of light. "Willful?" he sneered. "Wait, I'd like to see how you're going to be willful." What made the son of light furious was that Chu Yang did not even bother to say another word. He did not even say something as sarcastic as, "You're just a loser. Why are you so arrogant?" He was completely ignored. Rumble. The air and earth around the son of light suffered, as did the purple-haired man beside him. Luckily, the purple-haired man was strong enough. "I'm really unlucky," the son of all beasts mumbled. He also wanted to be willful, but he could not. Thus, he roared at the son of light and the others again, "Get lost, get lost! Let me cry first." Ridiculous. Everyone attack. The son of destiny said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword light fell directly toward him. This sword light was like a light from beyond the sky. It was very, very slow, like a snail crawling slowly. However, the son of destiny was speechless, and his expression changed greatly. Tianming. When he spat out these two words with difficulty, Something seemed to have been triggered, and something blocked the sword light that was as slow as a snail. A thread, a very thin thread. It was thinner than hair, thinner than silk, but incomparably tough. A line stretched across the sky, as if drawing a warning line. No one was allowed to cross it. If they did, they would offend something, and they would definitely be turned into ashes. They would die with grievances, and they would regret it until they died. The line of destiny was also the line of destiny. When everyone saw this line, they were all greatly shocked. Everyone had their own destiny, and what controlled their own destiny was the string of destiny. The Son of Destiny carried the mandate of heaven, and he could touch the threads of destiny. Very few people could break free from fate, or perhaps no one could break free from it at all. How could that sword light that was as slow as a snail sever such a string of fate? Clank, clank, clank. When the sword light and the string of fate met, it was like two divine weapons colliding. A sharp sound of metal rang out and sparks flew everywhere. It even formed a tongue of fire that soared into the sky with a boom. The void was also ignited like firewood. Clank, clank, clank. It was as if it was being cut. The sword light was like a saw cutting the string of destiny. Even though it was extremely thin, everyone could clearly feel that it was being sawed like a piece of wood on the verge of being cut. Bang, bang, bang. Thunderous noises resounded. The void was completely chaotic. After a buzzing sound, the string of destiny was completely cut. The heaven and earth seemed to be cut in half at this moment. Chapter 1673. The line of destiny has been cut off. How is this possible? How is this possible? In the dead silence, it was unknown who was the first to be unable to bear it and let out an extremely sharp scream. It was as if a chain reaction had been set off. Like a flood being released from a dam, countless screams of shock and horror seemed to have found an outlet and suddenly rushed out. Even the line of destiny can be cut off. Doesn't this mean that that person can break free from his own destiny? Destiny, what is destiny? If it is destined, it will be there. If it is not destined, do not force it. Who can fight against destiny? Anyone who can break free from their own destiny. Which one of them is not a supreme existence? Which one of them is not an earth-shattering existence? Even if he is the son of destiny and carries the destiny, he still cannot break free from his destiny. His destiny is to carry the destiny and act on behalf of the heavens. In the crowd, many people screamed as if they had been plunged into a pot of oil. They cried out in shock and disbelief. Xiao Qiyu, is it you? The son of destiny shouted out a name in shock, causing everyone to be silent again. At the same time, in an instant, everyone remembered this name. Xiao Qiyu. Xiao Qiyu, Xiao Qiyu of the Sword Pavilion. Only Xiao Qiyu of the Sword Pavilion could cut off the line of destiny with his sword. However, there was no response. The person who had attacked did not make any sound from the beginning to the end. The sword light was also moving as slowly as a snail towards the Son of Destiny, cutting it bit by bit. It was so slow that even maggots could move faster than it. Anyone could dodge it. However, the strange thing was that no matter how the Son of Destiny changed his position, no matter how fast he was, the sword light was always right in front of him. Moreover, the distance between the sword light and the Son of Destiny was so slow that it made people's hair stand on end. It was being eroded bit by bit. The distance was also being shortened bit by bit. It was completely against the laws of space, and it was completely against common sense. Such a sword light seemed to be a light of destiny, a line of destiny. No matter how the Son of Destiny dodged, he could not break free from the shackles of destiny. Buzz, buzz, buzz. There was a buzzing sound in Chu Yang's mind. He had never seen such a sword technique and such a sword light in his life. He was thoroughly amazed and shocked. What swordsmanship is this? It wasn't just him, everyone had the same thought. Almost everyone present couldn't wait to know what kind of swordsmanship could be so amazing. Xiao Qiuyu. These 3 words had been deeply engraved in Chu Yang's mind. Perhaps he would never be able to forget it because of this sword light. Clang clang clang. His sword and saber martial spirits started to vibrate violently at this moment. It was as if they had met an opponent who could fight with them. An extremely terrifying opponent, an opponent who could transform them, and even a confidant. There was no fear, no worry, only joy, only eagerness to fight. The various emotions of the saber and sword martial spirit were transmitted into Chu Yang's heart. He immediately realized that this was an opponent that could help him break through, allowing him to transform his saber and sword Dao. At the same time, he fully understood why the son of all beasts had appeared. Sword of Destiny, the legendary sword of destiny of the Sword Pavilion. Xiao Qiuyu, you actually cultivated such a sword technique. The son of destiny exclaimed again. He thought of a sword technique that only existed in legends. However, almost no one could come into contact with such a sword technique, let alone comprehend or even cultivate it. Chapter 1674. You've severed the thread of your destiny. The chosen one seemed to have thought of something, but before he could finish his words, the sword light had already landed on his body. The line was about to cut him into 2 halves. Ah! Miserable screams rang out. That sword light was truly too slow. Bit by bit, it was about to cut the child of destiny in half. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free. It was as if he was being tortured. With a boom, the child of destiny finally couldn't bear this kind of pain, let alone this kind of humiliation. He directly chose to self-destruct. Under the effect of the death substitution talisman, he turned into specks of light and was taken away from the starting ground. The entire place was silent. There wasn't the slightest bit of sound. This sword light seemed to have erased all sounds in the world, and also seemed to have turned everyone into mute. So cocky! The son of all beasts' voice was like a beam of light that cut through the endless darkness. It also seemed to shatter this mirror of tranquility. Suddenly, the entire place came back to life. Once again, it was full of vitality. That sword light just now was really suffocating. If you have this kind of ability, you can also be cocky. Chu Yang's fighting spirit was high. This sword light was a challenge to him, and also a declaration before the battle. However, there was no malice, no fierceness, no fame, and no profit. It was only a thirst for an opponent, a thirst for a breakthrough. This was a heart of the path of the sword without any impurities, a heart of seeking the Tao. Chu Yang was moved and shocked. He knew that he couldn't do it. He was a little nervous, so he pretended to be relaxed. Heh heh. The son of all beasts saw it and joked, "You're nervous." "I'm nervous." "You're scared." "I'm scared." "You think you're not a match." "I shouldn't be a match." Chu Yang spoke bluntly, opening up his heart for everyone to see. Only with a calm heart could one face fear, and only with a calm heart could one erase all worry and anxiety. Now, he was facing a peerlessly powerful opponent. This was the first opponent in history that he felt he would definitely lose. Motherfucker, these 2 lunatics! The son of all beasts cursed in his heart. Xiao Qiuyu was certain that he would lose, and this bastard in front of him also believed that he would lose. Which one of these 2 was telling the truth? The son of all beasts was completely confused. He had no idea who was stronger between Xiao Qiuyu and Chu Yang. In his opinion, between Xiao Qiuyu and Chu Yang, they probably couldn't determine the true strength of the other. However, there was one thing that could be admitted. These 2 people were so honest that it made one's hair stand on end. "Then do you want to escape?" The son of all beasts smiled again. Then he added, "You don't have a scapegoat talisman with you. What do I need that stupid thing for?" Chu Yang had the thought of escaping, but it was quickly erased by him. Where could he escape to? How long could he escape for? Once he escaped, he would be a deserter for life. He could only be a deserter forever. One day in his life, he would regret this choice for the rest of his life. Because this battle might be the most brilliant and splendid chapter of his life. It would also be the most important sublimation of his life. If he was willing to be an ordinary person, quietly come to this world, and quietly leave this world, he could escape. However, he clearly knew the restlessness in his heart. He had a restless heart and a restless soul. He also had a wild and unrestrained personality. Chapter 1675. In the heavenly soul world, in the God world, there was a legend that could create martial arts. At the very least, it was an opportunity to tell a good story. How could he give it up? Whether it was the heavenly soul world or the God world, martial arts was his most dazzling existence. In this world of martial arts, the weak were prey to the strong, and only the fittest survived. He, Chu Yang, also had to follow the laws of this era. To be free, to be happy, to not be angered by others, and to not be enslaved by others. He had to face all kinds of dangers, risk his life, and step on all kinds of dangerous paths. Only then could he control his own destiny. He had long understood this principle. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Chu Yang's mind, and there were even more reasons to avoid. In the end, he didn't make a decision based on the pros and cons. Instead, he made a decision with his own heart and followed his own feelings. Perhaps he would regret it in the end, but to him now there was no right or wrong. Regret, this word, should not exist in his dictionary of life. Who hasn't made a mistake before? And even if he did, there was a different kind of scenery. Therefore, if he looked back on the past and such a feeling appeared, he would feel that he was inferior. You're saying that I should throw away the death substitution talisman. When the son of all beasts heard Chu Yang's words, he felt that he was being looked down upon. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "Are you stupid? Didn't you say that it was a broken thing? Didn't you look down on it?" The son of all beasts stomped his feet. "Because I didn't, of course I looked down on it, of course I looked down on you." Chu Yang gave an analogy. "If I was born in a rich family, I would definitely not complain about having too much money, and I would definitely not be like a fool like you, throwing all your money into the water. Bastard, no matter what you say, you're always right, and this grandpa is always wrong. Of course, why would you throw yourself away for no reason?" Chu Yang laughed and said, "I'm a child born in a poor family, so of course I wouldn't envy a rich child. You guys are a fuck. Who the hell do you think you are?" The son of all beasts suddenly felt a little envious of that bastard Chu Yang. It seemed like everything was good to him. There was nothing bad in the world, and he would never complain about it. He was willing to bet that the bastard would only be able to do it in a short time. Although that bastard Chu had such thoughts in his heart, in normal days, he would definitely be envious, jealous, and hateful. He was no different from an ordinary person. This was a super bastard with a mixture of low-class and high-class interests. He was incomparably egotistical. After that, the son of all beasts felt better. He could fucking do it too. As for why he was so weak now, it was mainly because he didn't have an opponent to provoke him. As for that bastard Chu, he had been provoked by Xiao Qiu to the point that his nose was bulging. He wasn't in his normal state at all, but in a perverted state. I'd better continue with the lower levels. The energy consumption of the higher levels is too high. As soon as he finished thinking, he immediately roared at the Son of Light, 5 poisons, and the other prodigies. "What, you still don't understand human language? Hurry up and scram." At this moment, all the prodigies were completely mute. They didn't think there was one person who would lead the generation, but 2. These 2 had already met and were about to fight. They were not of a high enough level and were being cleared out. They were unwilling, but they were helpless. They could only swallow their anger and leave, because they couldn't block that sword at all. In just an instant all the prodigies had left. No one dared to target Chu Yang anymore. Chapter 1676. The starting ground, the highest and most precipitous mountain peak. Clouds and mist surged, and the mountain winds howled. A strange peak protruded and hung there alone. It stretched out for 9 miles with steep cliffs on both sides. Looking down, it was like a heavenly sword that had fallen from the 9 heavens and was stuck there diagonally. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. At the most dangerous part of the peak, a flat ground was artificially opened up and a woolen blanket was spread out. This was like a god who had fallen into hell and opened up a divine domain in hell. The fog was as thick as goat milk. At this moment, 3 old men were sitting around a short table with a pot of bitter tea on it. The 3 old men were a monk, a Taoist, and a vulgar. The monk's robes were white and his face was sallow, as if he had never seen the sun. He even looked a little malnourished, as if he was an ascetic monk. The Taoist's appearance was incomparably neat and elegant. The Taoist's appearance was vulgar, but not ordinary. He was 6 feet 9 inches tall, thin, and straight like a pine tree. His clothes were very simple, but incomparably neat and clean. His fingernails and beard were also very neatly trimmed, making people feel that he was perfect and couldn't be any better. The most shocking thing was his eyes. That pair of bright and spirited eyes were incomparably sharp, as if they could easily and accurately measure the dimensions of heaven and earth. When the son of all beasts brought Chu Yang here, a card automatically flew into his hand. On it was a flirtatious and soft-running script. Date: tomorrow in the bright and beautiful spring. Location: among the 100 flowers. Duelists: Xiao Chuyu Chu Wudi. Dual topic: Sword Dao. Chu Yang naturally saw the 3 old men, and the 3 old men naturally saw Chu Yang. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. The 3 old men's comments were as if Chu Yang was appraising a sword. They said 2 words in succession, all of which were not bad. Greetings, 3 seniors. Greetings, 3 seniors. The son of all beasts was very respectful, and so was Chu Yang. However, as if responding to the 3 old men's not bad, the 2 of them said the same thing. If it was just similar words, people would not have such thoughts, but it was definitely not just that. The son of all beasts spoke first, followed by Chu Yang. Not only did Chu Yang use the same words as the son of all beasts, but his tone, intonation, and even his actions were all the same. Chu Yang had practically copied all the actions of the son of all beasts. Perhaps only Chu Yang could do such a thing. The son of all beasts was speechless. He had started trouble the moment he arrived. You're dissatisfied. The 3 old men all looked at Chu Yang. It's not that I'm dissatisfied, I just want to find it interesting. Being interesting in front of the elders is not an interesting thing. It's not fun to be like a wooden person in front of the elders. You are very bold. I've never been timid. Chu Yang naturally did not do such a thing for no reason, nor did he have the slightest intention of being disrespectful. The 3 old men clearly wanted to see how Chu Yang was, and even more wanted to see Chu Yang's nature. Thus, he did not hide anything, and did his best to show his nature. Of course, he did not do it well, because he did not know what kind of person he was, but at least he felt that he was showing off his abilities, was unrestrained, was a little crazy, and was a little arrogant. He was confident that he could show these traits. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. The 3 old men said the same thing, but this time, when they looked at Chu Yang, there was more expression, and they all nodded slightly. Not bad, my ass. The son of all beasts wanted to curse. How could he not see that he was not bad? Of course I'm not bad. Chapter 1677. I'm not here to look at you. I'm only here because I'm not blind. That's right. I'm just here to see if you have a sword. Do you have a sword? When the 3 old men spoke again, the son of all beasts finally understood. Chu Yang thought that the three old men were here to evaluate him, so he directly revealed his true nature. As for the three old men, they said that they were curious about Chu Yang. At the same time, they also expressed that the evaluation of Chu Yang was not for them to do. This is not bad? The son of all beasts felt a toothache. Chu Yang did not dislike being evaluated, nor did he dislike being asked if he had a sword. Obviously, Xiao Chuyu wanted to be as fair as possible to have a fair battle with him. Most importantly, he felt that the three old men did not have any ill intentions towards him, nor did they look down on him. To be exact, he only felt kindness, as if the elders were advising him. If he could be like the three old men when he was old, he would feel that he was a successful person. To be able to make an unfamiliar young junior feel this way when meeting them for the first time, the three old men were definitely not ordinary. I don't have a sword. Chu Yang was talking about a sword that never left his side. A swordsman would live as long as the sword was there, and die as long as the sword was gone. He did not have such a sword. What kind of sword do you want? Among the three old men, one of them asked, and Chu Yang was stumped. If they were going to compete with swords, he naturally had to have a sword. After pondering for a while, he said, "Any sword will do." He asked himself if there was a sword that he treasured most in his life, but it was absolutely impossible for him to live as long as the sword was there, and die as long as the sword was gone. Is there a sword called casual in this world? Chu Yang was stunned. It seemed that there were many people who hated casual, whether it was in his previous life or now. At least, these three old men were such people. "Seniors, what kind of swords do you have for me to choose?" "That's more like it." The monk among the three old men tossed a sword to Chu Yang as he spoke. Chu Yang caught it and immediately felt that the sword was neither heavy nor light. He didn't know the reason, but when he held such a sword, he had such a feeling. Soon after, he was shocked again and thought to himself, "These three seniors are definitely craftsmen who forge swords, craftsmen who possess superb craftsmanship." With a clang, Chu Yang pulled out the sword. The sword was not incomparably sharp, but it was sharp enough that it seemed to have been forged according to the most standard specifications. The sword didn't look ancient or backward, but it didn't look novel either. Its length, width, hilt, guard, and even the scabbard made people feel that it was the most standard. There were many types of people, and there were also many types of swords. However, to make a sword like a person and show its own personality, the person who could forge such a sword was definitely not an ordinary person. It must be the three craftsmen. At this moment, Chu Yang was sure of the identities of the three old men. As for the sword in his hand, it was a well-behaved sword, just like a well-behaved person. Chu Yang didn't think that he was a proper person, so this sword didn't suit him. "Seniors, do you have any other swords?" The three old men weren't surprised by Chu Yang's answer. Then, they threw out another sword. This sword was completely different from the previous one. The two swords were like dragons and tigers, like fire and water that couldn't coexist. They were two extremes. This sword was completely different from the others. From the guard, to the hilt, to the blade, to the length and weight of the sword, it didn't follow the rules at all. It completely overturned the standards of swords forged by predecessors. It was extremely novel. Chapter 1678. This isn't suitable either. Chu Yang shook his head and returned the sword. The three old men weren't surprised at all, they felt that it was a matter of course. After that, it was an extremely beautiful sword. It had a platinum blade and a golden scabbard. It was inlaid with all kinds of precious treasures. It was incomparably beautiful, but it didn't lose its sharpness. Even before it was unsheathed, it was exuding a soul-stirring sharpness and killing intent. Or an incomparably ugly sword. Chu Yang looked like he was looking for a wife. He couldn't make a decision even after a long time. Do you know what kind of sword you want now? The three old men didn't expect Chu Yang to choose one of the swords, they just wanted to let him know what kind of sword he wanted. They only wanted to forge a sword for him, a sword that was most suitable for him, and they only had one night to do it. Chu Yang thought for a long time and finally said, I want a sword of freedom. Impossible. 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 The three old men said in unison, but they were not angry. Instead, they were powerless to do anything. Who would want a sword of freedom? For example, everyone wanted to be free, but who could truly be free? They couldn't be free, so how could they forge a sword of freedom? Chu Yang naturally knew that he was asking for too much. Although he had some hope before he spoke, it was because a sword like this was too difficult. Then I want a sword like this, a sword of contradiction. People were contradictory. Chu Yang felt that he was a contradiction. Be more specific. What kind of contradiction? There are too many contradictions in this world. The three old men's words made Chu Yang ponder for a while. Then, he thought of his own fire and water, his yin and yang, his tai chi and wu ji. Weren't these the direction of his sword Tao? With the heavenly spirit world and the God's world as two extremes, he had created his own martial art. His destiny twins martial spirits, his sword and saber martial spirits, which one of them didn't fit this point. Therefore, this time, he spoke with absolute certainty. Sword and blade, water and fire, light and darkness, yin and yang, God and devil. Chu Yang finally said, Tai Chi and limitless, I want a sword like this. At this moment, Chu Yang seemed to see the direction of his sword Tao, his saber Tao, and even his Tao. His sword was a saber, and the saber was also a sword. He would never abandon his sword, nor would he abandon his blade. He would never abandon the moon for the sun, nor would he abandon the light for the darkness. His aura also changed abruptly, becoming completely different from before. Earlier, he was like turbid water, a turbid flood that rushed about randomly, wantonly spreading, and no one knew where he went. But at this moment, he was like a stream flowing towards the river, towards the sea, towards the vast ocean, the final destination of water. Whoosh! The three old men couldn't help but look at Chu Yang with their sharp eyes. They were keenly aware of the astonishing change in Chu Yang's aura. Although it wasn't intense, it was almost a qualitative change. It was as if the endless darkness had silently retreated, and the sun had silently emerged from the east. It was so dazzling and astonishing. This kid is indeed incomparably amazing. Just by choosing a sword, he already has such an amazing understanding of the sword Tao. No wonder Yu values this battle so much. He is indeed a rare opponent. There is no such genius in Sword Pavilion. The monk, the Taoist, and the layman were all shocked. Those who knew their identities would be even more shocked if they knew how shocked they were at this moment. There were not many people who could shock the three elders of Sword Pavilion in terms of swordsmanship. Chapter 1679. Your request is not low. I'm afraid it won't be possible in the starting ground. These old bones of mine will have a hard time tonight. The three old men spoke one after another. Then, they revealed a contemplative look, as if they were thinking about how to forge such a sword. Chu Yang naturally knew that it wouldn't be easy to tailor such a divine sword for him. He immediately bowed to the three old men and said, I'll have to trouble the three seniors. It is indeed a little troublesome. This was the last word before the three old men disappeared into thin air. The woolen blanket, the tea table, and the pot of bitter tea also disappeared without a trace. He didn't know how high the three old men's cultivation was, but the starting ground's restriction on them was probably very weak. Chu Yang wasn't surprised by this. He already knew that the three old men were extraordinary and shocking. I'm really envious, the son of all beasts said sincerely. To be able to make the three old men of Sword Pavilion personally forge a sword, You are probably the second person in the gods' world to do so. The first person was, without a doubt, Xiao Qiyu. It is indeed my honor. Chu Yang had to admit that at least in the gods' world, he felt more gentleness than in the heavenly soul world. Of course, this was referring to people he had never met before. It wasn't strange for him to feel this way because he felt too much malice in the heavenly soul world. Let's go. Just as Chu Yang took a step forward, the son of all beasts stopped him. Wait, there are more seniors coming. This time, they are here to see you. Chu Yang couldn't help rubbing his nose. He was starting to hate this kind of thing. They don't want anything to happen to little Xiao. The son of all beasts not only took the opportunity to give Xiao Qiyu a childish name, but also explained, little Xiao is the only decent genius in Sword Pavilion for 1,000 years. I'm afraid that he will be the one to support Sword Pavilion in the future. Wanwan, are you asking me to be lenient? For the first time, the son of all beasts didn't care about the title Wanwan. He nodded and admitted, yes. What if I die? It's good that you died. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and rubbed his chin. You're affecting me so much. I kind of want to kill you. You will be affected by me. The son of all beasts was full of disdain. He was confident that Chu Yang was definitely someone who would rather die than die himself. In front of his own life and death, how could he care about Xiao Qiyu's life and death? However, he also believed that Chu Yang would definitely not kill Xiao Qiyu if he could take his situation into consideration. While the two of them were talking, two old men appeared in midair, one in front and one behind. The one in front was very thin, while the one behind was very fat. It was as if there was an evil spirit behind him, or someone was chasing after him. He was burning with anxiety, to the point that he was like a monkey, scratching his ears and scratching his cheeks as he flew. The fat one at the back was very slow as a snail. He seemed to understand that there was no need to rush anything. Or perhaps, he was someone who would never stand if he could sit, and would never sit if he could lie down. Chu Yang looked at the fat old man's monkey-like appearance, and couldn't help but laugh. Kid, what are you laughing at? The thin old man seemed to be very clear that Chu Yang was laughing at him. He also seemed to be very aware that he was laughing at himself. Perhaps he had been laughed at many times, so when Chu Yang laughed, he knew who he was laughing at. This skinny old man spoke extremely quickly. It was as if he was setting off firecrackers. Furthermore, his voice was incomparably loud and clear. Because what am I laughing at? That's why I'm laughing. As soon as Chu Yang spoke, the fat old man behind him laughed loudly. Laughing at my ass, I'm laughing at your ass. Damn fat pig, who are you laughing at? You're as fat as a pig, and you still have the nerve to laugh. Chapter 1680. Ha ha! The fat old man seemed to have long since become accustomed to this. He slowly said, Skinny monkey, what am I laughing at? Damn fat pig, you're talking nonsense. The skinny old man angrily glared at the fat pig in his mouth. He discovered that the fat pig didn't seem to be afraid of boiling water, so he immediately glared at Chu Yang. You little brat, you don't even know the basics of respecting the old and loving the young. Impatient but kind by nature, this was how Chu Yang felt about this skinny old man. He is a bastard. The son of all beasts said from the side. Skinny, hurry up and see how heavy this bastard pig is. How much can he be sold for? These are the people who came to see my strength. Chu Yang immediately understood. The three old men from before were responsible for the sword, and these two old men were responsible for looking at people. This isn't your pig, so what are you worrying about? Move aside. The skinny old man pulled at the son of all beasts from afar, as if he wanted to immediately push the son of all beasts to the side. At this time, flowers began to grow one after another on the perilous peak. In an instant it was a field of beautiful purple and red. There seemed to be camellias, peach blossoms, azaleas, and so on. It could be said that 100 flowers were blooming, 100 flowers vying for their beauty. But some flowers appeared quickly, and soon faded away. The red flowers were like rouge left on a woman's cheeks because she hadn't removed her makeup the night before. Other flowers bloomed extremely slowly. By the time the flowers that bloomed quickly had withered, these flowers had bloomed to the extreme. The most precipitous peak of the starting ground suddenly turned into a back garden. The falling flowers formed a bluestone path. The flowers on both sides competed for beauty, leading straight to Chu Yang. In this moment, Chu Yang faced these two old men. He suddenly felt as if he were facing legendary ancient beasts that had already gone extinct. He felt an indescribable pressure and palpitations. These two old men are also very strong. Chu Yang sighed in amazement. Compared to the 3 old men before, these 2 old men made him feel even more terrified. Although the 2 old men had tried their best to conceal their auras, the auras that they were emitting were already extremely frightening. The sword pavilion in the god's world must be a colossus. He sighed in his heart again. Just because he wanted to fight with Xiao Qiuyu, 5 great figures came. Greetings, seniors. Chu Yang bowed respectfully. Not good, not good. I'm not good at all. I'm not good at all. I've become a fart. There's no meaning in being a human anymore. Which eye of yours can see that I'm good? The thin old man's eyes widened again. His eyes were even wider than those of the son of all beasts. It's good for you to stare. Chu Yang smiled and said, if you dare to say you're number 2, no one would dare to say they're number 1. With that, he pointed at the son of all beasts and said, he's definitely not as good as you. Come, little Wanwan, let's have a staring contest. The moment the thin elder spoke, the son of all beasts' eyes widened. How could this be possible? Lil Wan, your eyes are really wide open. I'm not as good as you, senior. You're admitting defeat before the contest? Boring. Are you really not interesting? The thin old man shook his head. He pointed at Chu Yang and said to the son of all beasts, you're not as interesting as this fart. Hurry up and kill yourself. The son of all beasts was speechless. Wasn't he just going along with you? He was actually not as good as this bastard King Chu. Ha ha! The fat old man behind him also laughed loudly. Indeed, indeed. The thin monkey is right. Lil Wan, you're really too boring. You're not even as good as the thin monkey. The son of all beasts was really depressed. This was a double blow. Could you not be so biased towards that bastard? When the fat old man also arrived in front of Chu Yang, the thin old man said, I told the thin old man to hurry up. Chapter 1681. Guinea. Slow down. Chu Yang's eyes widened. They seemed to be a perfect match. The lives of the 2 people in front of him seemed to be a little too exciting. At least, the fat man and the skinny man had rich and wonderful stories. My name is Chu Bupong. Chu Yang said to the skinny man first. Then, he said to the fat man slowly, my name is Chu Bupong. Bullshit, you're just a fart. The skinny old man spoke too quickly. After he finished, the fat old man said slowly, young man, you have to work harder and get skinny. Can I introduce myself? My name is not Little Wanwan. The son of all beasts felt that he was being ignored, so he forcibly interrupted. Little Wanwan, go away. He was directly pushed to the other side by the skinny man, causing him to look at Chu Yang with eyes full of hidden bitterness. I'm not here to look for farts. Is there a person with the surname Chu here? The skinny man asked even though he already knew the answer. It was also the official start of the test. Yes. You're the one with the surname Chu. Yes. That's great. I'm here to see the one with the surname Chu. The skinny man began to look up and down at Chu Yang, like a monkey running around a tree. At the same time, he said quickly, it seems that there's nothing to see about you. However, someone said that you look good, but I can't tell. I can only smell farts. You can also try to smell one of my farts. Suddenly, the skinny man made a move. He pointed at Chu Yang. This point was like a sword. It was fast and urgent. It was extremely fast and indescribable. It was like a sudden emergency and knew that it was already too late. It was also like the blooming of fireworks. The most beautiful fireworks were completely destroyed in the night sky. Fast sword. Such a thought popped up in Chu Yang's consciousness. Then, he suddenly fell into infinite darkness. He knew that this was a test for him. Subconsciously, he wanted to use a sword technique to deal with it. He immediately thought of the sword technique that he was best at: fragrant elephant crossing the river, cutting off the flow. Without time to think, he instinctively pointed his finger as if he wanted to cut off the 3,000 strands of worry. This finger was also very fast. It was as if the 3,000 strands of worry appeared and entangled and blocked the skinny man's finger. Bang! When the two fingers touched, it was just a tap. The skinny guy did not exert any strength. Instead, it was Chu Yang who exerted his strength. However, it was like a drop of water falling into the ocean. The skinny guy did not move at all. Cutting off everything, cutting off the 3,000 strands of worry. That's how Upanishads work. But now you can separate them. Cutting off everything is a Upanishad, and the 3,000 strands of worry has become a Upanishad. Moreover, you can use it under pressure. The skinny man said a bunch of words like setting off firecrackers. In the end, he said, "Your fart is not bad." When Chu Yang heard this, he was incomparably shocked. This skinny man had instantly understood all the profoundness of his swordsmanship, and everything was as clear as fire. Just now, under the pressure, Chu Yang had indeed changed the sword technique that he was most proficient in. "I'll give it a try too." Slowly, a chubby hand stretched out, and a flower branch appeared out of thin air. What kind of flower was this? The flower was about to fall, and the flower branch seemed to have no power at all. However, when it was in Slowly's hand, everything suddenly changed. Slowly's movements were very slow. One could clearly see him using his thumb, little finger, and ring finger to form a sword seal. His right foot slowly stepped out, and the flower branch in his hand slowly pointed at Chu Yang. At this moment, the flower branch seemed to have some kind of magic. The flower that was about to wither suddenly shrank and turned back into a bud, looking like it was about to bloom. Time seemed to be flowing backward at this moment. Slowly, strength was increasing rapidly. Every time he increased his strength, Chu Yang would shrink a little. There was also a huge pressure that wanted to draw Chu Yang into some kind of vortex. Chapter 1682. Fatty's sword was related to time, it was a sword of time. However, the funny thing was that time had always been the fastest, but this sword was extremely slow. The time of joy was short, and the time that was extremely slow was 10,000 years per second. This kind of time was probably hell for everyone. At this moment, Chu Yang felt as if he was in hell, suffering countless torments and tribulations. Every second became incomparably long. 1 second was 10,000 years, or even 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or forever, forever and ever. Such a sword really wanted to take his life. It wanted to take his life. Fatty didn't use his full strength just now. He was just using it as a benchmark to make an initial assessment of my sword Dao strength. I've received recognition, and it's a great recognition. Logically speaking, I should be happy, but I really can't be happy. They seem to think too highly of me. Chu Yang smiled bitterly in his heart. Fatty's sword was a little too shocking for him, and he couldn't resist it. If he couldn't resist it, he would die. This was without a doubt, because Fatty didn't show any mercy at all. In other words, Fatty wanted to stimulate the true strength of his sword Dao, so that he could fight Xiao Qiuyu head-on, and then help Xiao Qiuyu break through. Chu Yang's learning was too heterogeneous, and sword Dao wasn't his specialty. The night before, he had just seen the direction of sword Dao. His sword Dao cultivation was naturally not enough. If it wasn't enough, he had to grow. I've been too hasty. Inwardly, Chu Yang couldn't help but smile wryly. Although he had wanted to suppress himself by fighting with the other chosen in order to gain enlightenment and condense his godhood, the current situation seemed to have exceeded the limits of what he could handle. At this moment, he suddenly smelled the smell of death, the smell of death. He felt that he was going to die, and the scene of him spurting blood seemed to appear in his mind. I think I'm still a virgin. This life has been quite exciting, but if I die like this in the end, it's too lame. No, it's too miserable. I can't just die like this. I can't end my life like this. Chu Yang's thoughts were all over the place. He thought of Shangguanlan's beautiful face, his parents, his elder brother, the saint child of Zither Sound, and how he had beaten up Xiao Guai, Xiao Wu, Xiao Lu, and the parrot. One by one, images appeared in his mind, and one by one, living faces jumped out from the bottom of his heart. Waha, Chu Hang, you died just like that. Yeah. The parrot's rampant laughter, Lil Guai's worried expression, and so on. Chu Yang was extremely reluctant to part with every heartwarming scene. I can't die yet. I am Chu Yang, I am Chu Wudi, I am a man like the wind, a man who will leave the world as lonely as snow. Chu Yang roared from the bottom of his heart. He suddenly realized that he had become incomparably weak, so weak that he was like a little idiot. Whenever he encountered something, whenever he encountered difficulties, the first thing he would think of was to run away. At the juncture of life and death, his nature was undoubtedly exposed, and only then did he realize that he was so unbearable. However, he wasn't dissatisfied with himself. He could accept himself no matter what. If he couldn't accept himself and forgive himself, wouldn't he be an extreme failure as a person? He suddenly smiled. The smile that suddenly appeared on his face made Fatter slower stunned. The fat guy didn't make a move. He was the most relaxed and observed Chu Yang the most carefully. Chapter 1683. What kind of smile is that? Is it fearless? The skinny man's smile was indescribable at this moment, but when it bloomed, it was dazzling and divine, like the first ray of light in the world. Therefore, he clearly knew that there would be a change in the next moment. The son of all beasts was almost suffocating, and was even waiting for Chu Yang's death. Then, Chu Yang suddenly smiled. He was stunned, and the suffocation disappeared. At this time, to be able to smile was definitely a kind of ability, a super great ability. At least, the son of all beasts felt that he couldn't do it. Egyi is indeed powerful. He didn't know why, but he was already certain that Chu Yang would definitely not die under Fatty's sword. Although that sword was only a flower, that flower seemed to be more terrifying than any sword, more shocking, and more unparalleled killing weapons. After Chu Yang escaped from the suffocation and terror that Fatty gave him, he suddenly felt that it wasn't difficult to block such a sword. Since it was a sword of time, then he could use time to deal with it. He had a magical power that involved time, and this magical power could also be turned into a sword technique. What was originally difficult suddenly became extremely easy. Chu Yang felt that this was just a change in his mood. There was nothing difficult in the world, and he was worried for nothing. Reincarnation magical power. Buzz buzz buzz. His saber and sword martial spirits vibrated at high frequency, and he immediately pointed out. He seemed to stab with his sword, and also seemed to slash with his saber. However, the sword looked like a saber, and the saber looked like a sword. The sword was a sword, and the saber was a saber. There was no mysterious change. At this moment, Chu Yang had a great realization in his heart. The difference between a saber and a sword is the difference between people. There is no such thing as a saber and a sword. Sabers and swords are just different ways of using them. Or it could be said that sabers and swords were different ways of killing people. This was because sabers and swords were generally used to kill people. Of course, they could be used for other things as well, but their essence was, people use tools to destroy or injure something. Great destruction, great killing. Chu Yang's finger was not slow. At first, 2 black holes appeared on the tip of his finger, but in the end, the 2 black holes merged into one. The black hole represented the cycle of reincarnation. Within it, Fatty could sense 6 gigantic black vortexes. Moreover, each of the 6 vortexes seemed to be connected to a different world. 6 paths of reincarnation, reincarnation's sword art. It wasn't just the fatter ones who were shocked. Even the skinnier ones were shocked to see this young brat in front of them, who had mastered reincarnation and the 6 daos at such a young age. Unbelievable! It was hard to imagine. Chu Yang had far exceeded their expectations. They had thought that Chu Yang would be able to withstand the attack, but he would definitely be seriously injured. As a result, they had prepared life-saving divine medicines. At this moment, the divine medicine had become redundant. When Chu Yang's fingertip touched the flower, the black hole on his fingertip gradually disappeared. As for the flower in Fatty's hand, the flower bud bloomed again and quickly returned to its original appearance. The collision was silent. Chu Yang looked as if he was stretching out his hand to smell the fragrance of the flowers in the midst of the brilliant spring sunshine. He wanted to feel the taste of spring. Petals also silently fluttered down. Although there weren't many petals, in an instant, between heaven and earth, countless colorful petals poured down, as if it was raining flowers. The flower branch in Fatso's hand also disappeared without a sound. This flower branch was originally a transformation. On the highest and steepest mountain peak of the starting ground, there was not a single flower at all. There was only wind, an angry howling wind. "You're really good." Fatty couldn't find any more suitable words in the end, so he could only say this sentence. Chapter 1684. Although Chu Yang's swordsmanship wasn't strong enough, and his cultivation wasn't deep enough, he was really too outstanding. He made up for all of these, and was completely capable of fighting Xiao Qiyu. At this moment, whether it was fatter slower or skinnier faster, they were really worried about Xiao Qiyu. They were really afraid that he would fall in this battle. Phew, son of all beasts was also completely relieved, but he couldn't help but feel a little envious and jealous. He cursed in his heart, "Eggy is really a super bastard. You really hit me, your grandfather, too hard." Facing Chu Yang, son of all beasts felt a little ashamed of their inferiority. They really couldn't compare. "Fatter slower, didn't you go overboard just now? I was almost scared to death by you, hee hee." Chu Yang suddenly laughed sinisterly, pleased with himself. He stretched out his hand toward Fatter Slower. "Shouldn't you compensate me for my mental trauma?" At this moment, Fatter Slower, Skinnier Faster, and Son of all Beasts were all speechless. They looked at Chu Yang dumbfounded. They all thought to themselves, "This thing is really shameless? This thing's thinking is really weird too." At the same time, such a thought popped up in their hearts. This was definitely the first time they had heard of compensation for mental trauma in their lives. "I can give you some meat. Do you want it?" Fatter Slower was slightly stunned. Suddenly, the fat on his body trembled. "Compensate with my body?" Chu Yang looked at the fat on his body, and immediately felt a greasy feeling in his heart. He was very disgusted. When he thought about the rich meaning of compensation with his body, he felt a wave of nausea in his heart. He immediately felt a toothache. "I can give you something urgent. Do you want it?" Chu Yang's disgusted expression seemed to be even more disgusted. Fatter Slower, Skinnier Faster, and Son of all Beasts were immediately amused. They were laughing so hard that Skinnier Faster also quickly joined in. Do I want your bird scratching its ears and cheeks? Chu Yang was even more disgusted. He didn't want to be anxious like a monkey, so it was better to politely decline. When the son of all beasts saw this, he immediately followed up and said, I can give you some. Do you want it? Chu Yang rolled his eyes. All of this was done with sincerity, which made him feel very touched. I don't want to become a retard. As soon as he finished speaking, the son of all beasts was hit in the head. Roar! The son of all beasts howled incessantly as he cursed. Big King Chu bastard, if you have the ability, why don't you give Skinny and Fat a try as well? TSK. Chu Yang rolled his eyes again and said disdainfully, You seem to be really stupid. You're the one being bullied, do you understand? What kind of bastard are you, especially targeting young children? The son of all beasts was depressed. Chu Yang said proudly, Grandpa Chu, I've punched the Nanshan children and kicked the North Mountain elders. I've knocked them all down if they're not as tall as my waist. I've buried them all if they're over 80. Waha! He put his hands on his hips and laughed arrogantly. He was very rampant, as if he had done something earth-shattering, something that he could be proud of. Fatter, Slower, and Skinnier Faster's mouths couldn't help but twitch. The geniuses they had seen in the past, those young talents, were either handsome and refined or arrogant and domineering. They were definitely not like the person in front of them, who took shame as pride, treated being cheap as the highest existence, and did all kinds of pranks. This Chu Yang really made them feel very uncomfortable. It was as if they had walked too much at night and met a ghost. In the end, because of their identities and because they weren't in the mood, they didn't play cheap with Chu Yang and left. Chapter 1685. Night. The night sky was as dark as ink. At the starting ground, an ice-like moon had just risen, illuminating the gloomy and desolate forest. No one could be seen, let alone ghosts. Chu Yang faced the incoming cold wind and couldn't help but shiver. In an instant, a strange premonition appeared in his heart. This premonition, he was sure that it was an ominous premonition. He knew the reason, Xiao Chuyu. No matter if it was the 3 old men who asked him for a sword, the fat one or the skinny one, they were all too shocking. And in the sword pavilion, there was probably someone even more shocking in the way of the sword. Under the guidance of so many sword experts, Xiao Chuyu was definitely extraordinary and shocking. His cultivation in the way of the sword was probably unmatched. The Sword of Destiny. Chu Yang couldn't help but think of the sword that Xiao Chuyu used to force the Chosen One to self-destruct. That extremely shocking sword. Chu Yang didn't seem to have any moves that he could use to deal with that sword. I don't like this damned place. Why did I come to this damned place? Chu Yang immediately complained to the son of all beasts. Are you bringing me here to find a grave? Damn it, how can you not speak human language all day long? Didn't you just fly to this place yourself? The son of all beasts was very unhappy, but he didn't have the heart to care about this. He directly left the forest and came to a place where the moon was bright. When Chu Yang followed him, he directly handed a document to Chu Yang. What is this? You'll know when you see it. Why ask my ass? I'm asking your ass. Chu Yang looked at it and couldn't help but squint. This was detailed information about Xiao Chuyu, especially about Xiao Chuyu's way of the sword. It was incomparably detailed. This made him feel Xiao Chuyu's eagerness to fight with him, his eagerness to seek the Tao. Xiao Chuyu was worried that Chu Yang did not understand him well enough. Chu Yang would not be able to unleash his greatest potential during the sword duel. Chu Yang didn't feel arrogance, only sincerity. Xiao Chuyu was definitely not an arrogant person. Everything he did was to make it as fair as possible, so that when the 2 of them fought, at least one of them would be able to improve. One had to admit that Chu Yang's sword Dao cultivation was truly too shallow when compared to Xiao Chu. He was well aware of this, but Xiao Qiuyu was able to sense it in an instant. It was a little shocking. He didn't say anything else and started to read the information carefully. Xiao Qiuyu was an orphan who was abandoned by others. He didn't know who his parents were and was adopted by a kind old granny. When he was 5 years old, his grandmother died and he became a beggar. He was bullied by some thugs, and when he was about to die, he picked up a branch from the ground and accurately pierced the throat of a thug, killing him. The other thugs were ferocious, but in the end, they were all killed by Xiao Qiuyu with this branch, revealing his exceptional talent in the sword Dao. From this incident, he felt that he seemed to have talent in the sword Dao, so he went to the sword pavilion and joined it. He had no friends, only the sword was his friend, and the sword was his father and mother. Practicing the sword in the sword pavilion was the most carefree, the happiest time of his life. Damn! When Chu Yang saw this, he broke out in a cold sweat. From between the lines, he could feel Xiao Qiuyu's extreme love and attachment to the sword. He even felt that Xiao Qiuyu was born for the sword and lived for the sword. His parents and brothers were all existences that interfered with his sword Dao. That was why he was an orphan, because he was born for the sword and lived for the sword. Chu Yang felt that this logic was reasonable. At this moment, he felt the terror of Xiao Qiuyu's sword Dao even more. The sword could be said to be Xiao Qiuyu's everything. Chapter 1686. Of course, he was also extremely dissatisfied with his own feelings of regret. At the same time, he couldn't help but respect Xiao Qiuyu a little more. The sword technique that Xiao Qiuyu cultivated in the beginning emphasized qi, force, and he created the 36 thunderclap swords. His sword strikes were like thunder, ferocious, fierce, and peerlessly overbearing. After killing at the age of 5, Xiao Qiuyu was out of place in Sword Pavilion. Because of his shocking talent in sword arts, he was targeted by Sword Pavilion's disciples. He killed more than 100 people in anger, which shook Sword Pavilion. In the end, he became a genius that Sword Pavilion focused on nurturing. "My sword is the most precious thing," he once said. "Killing is the most serious thing in the world, and using one's precious sword to kill is the most solemn and sacred thing." Thus, when he killed, he would always cleanse his body and mind. He was incomparably solemn and dignified, and the places he chose were all treasured lands with excellent feng shui. Xiao Qiuyu's sword Dao was accomplished, but the sword art he used was too overbearing. It had accompanied him for a long time when his sword was broken. He hid his sword and switched to a gentle sword art. In one night, he comprehended the water drop sword Dao and the water sword Dao, which created a shocking sword Dao phenomenon that shocked the world. From then on, he was officially appointed as the successor of Sword Pavilion, the next leader, guide, and guardian of Sword Pavilion. All of Sword Pavilion's supreme sword arts were open to him. In less than a year, he mastered countless sword arts and created the myriad sword transformation art, which shocked Sword Pavilion once again. The myriad sword transformation art was comparable to the myriad sword transformation art. The ancestral dragon of the gods' world died because of the myriad sword transformation art. Thus, after Xiao Qiuyu created the myriad sword transformation art, no one knew about it. Fuck you #yen%, #yen%. Chu Yang immediately activated the magical power of the 3-character classic. Xiao Qiuyu had actually created the sword transformation technique that was comparable to the dragon transformation technique of myriad beings. This had truly frightened him. This thing was a bit too terrifying. "You have such a bird's time." When the son of all beasts heard Chu Yang's 3-character classic, he laughed in his heart. He felt ashamed of his inferiority in front of Chu Yang, and Chu Yang also experienced it this time. "When I was 5 years old, I killed people. When I was 5 years old, I practiced swordsmanship. For 7 or 8 years, I didn't know how many years had passed, I only knew that I had a sword. When I was angry, I killed people again, and my swordsmanship improved. After I became famous in the world, I gradually developed a competitive spirit. I fought even more for fame and fortune. When Chu Yang saw this, he couldn't help but activate the 3-character classic again. Dust my ass, hurry up and dust my ass. If you don't, I'm afraid I'm really going to die this time. He suddenly became an ant on a hot pan. The pressure was too great. Xiao Qiuyu was simply too perverse in his eyes. He, the son of all beasts, rejoiced in Chu Yang's misfortune. Do you smell the scent of death? What is the scent of death like? This was originally a joke, but the son of all beasts suddenly realized that Chu Yang was already stunned. I really smell the scent of death? When Chu Yang faced Fatty's sword, he smelled the scent of death. That ominous premonition just now might be the scent of death. This type of ominous premonition became even stronger, so strong that it became tangible. It was to the point where he once again smelled his own blood, to the point where he could even hear his own blood spurting out from his body, that type of extremely small sound. You can't have really gone stupid, right? The son of all beasts was stunned. Chu Yang suddenly looked up at the sky and said to himself, Death. Some people say that there is a special scent, and people who are about to die can easily smell it. Why did the son of all beasts suddenly feel that big bastard Chu wasn't joking? Fighting with Xiao Qiuyu was definitely not a simple matter, even if that person was a monster. Chapter 1687. Just take your time to feel the smell of death. TSK. The son of all beasts said with disdain. He flew up like a black bat and disappeared into the night sky. Chu Yang knew where the son of all beasts was going, so he didn't stop him. He suddenly smiled bitterly and asked himself, Can someone who is about to die really smell the smell of death? If so, then he really did smell the smell of death. Chu Yang confirmed that Xiao Qiuyu was this kind of person. He was the kind of person that you might not like, but you had no choice but to admire. This kind of person was close to God. Not the God of the world of gods, but the God of his previous life. The God of the world of gods was too cheap. This kind of person could reach the peak of swordsmanship, chess, zither, or other arts. Because this kind of person would give up everything in their lives for this. While Chu Yang was deep in thought, the son of all beasts saw Xiao Qiuyu. Before he could say anything, Xiao Qiuyu had already spoken. I know. The son of all beasts immediately glared. What do you know? The 5 old guys are very powerful, but are they as powerful as me? Are you talking about his reaction? I can guess. Xiao Qiuyu looked up at the crescent moon in the sky. He should be aware that he is no match for me, right? You even know this. Although the son of all beasts didn't say anything, his shock was the best answer. As expected, Xiao Qiuyu smiled bitterly. He feels the pressure and even smells the smell of death. Then I'm really in trouble. I also smell the smell of death. That bullshit smell of death again. The son of all beasts was a little irritated. Why didn't he smell the bullshit smell of death? It's normal for you to know that he feels the pressure. After all, I was shocked. But I haven't even farted yet. How do you know that bastard smells the smell of death? The son of all beasts almost cursed out loud. He now realized that he hated hearing the words the smell of death. After scolding him, he still hadn't vented enough. He continued, How the hell do you know him so well? You haven't even officially met that bastard yet, have you? Xiao Qiuyu still looked at the crescent moon in the sky and slowly said, Of course I do not understand his character, but I understand his sword. It was yet another mysterious reason that he had no choice but to believe. In fact, up until now, Xiao Qiuyu had not made the slightest mistake in Chu Yang's judgment. It was simply astonishing. No one would believe him if he told them about this. However, Xiao Qiuyu had done it because of his sword. Xiao Qiuyu was undoubtedly a swordsman, and so was Chu Yang. Sigh. The son of all beasts recalled the two bastards in his mind. When he compared the two bastards, he realized that it was as if he was looking at twins. Suddenly, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Perhaps you two bastards are the same kind of person. Two lonely and peerless people, two lonely and peerless swords. How could they not appreciate each other? This was what the son of all beasts thought. If the two of them didn't die, they would definitely be close friends. They would be best friends in life and death. They would be his two great backers in the future. He could casually pull one of them out to be a tiger's skin, and he would be awe-inspiring. But now, one of the two was probably going to die. How can there be two idiots in this world who would do such a stupid thing? The son of all beasts was truly going crazy. Just as the son of all beasts was feeling extremely vexed, he suddenly smelled a strange smell. It seemed to be the smell of death that King Chu Yang and Xiao Qiuyu had mentioned. Chapter 1688. Immediately, he noticed the difference between Chu Yang and Xiao Qiuyu. Chu Yang would activate the three-character classic to vent, but Xiao Qiuyu was like a silent gourd, suppressing all the pressure in his heart. Oh no! Bah! The son of all beasts suddenly raised his hand and gave Xiao Qiuyu a big slap. 5 clear fingerprints appeared on Xiao Qiuyu's face. He glared at the son of all beasts, as if he would draw his sword if the son of all beasts couldn't explain himself. Are you awake? The son of all beasts roared. Xiao Qiuyu was slightly stunned. He roughly understood, but didn't say anything for a long time. With a clang, after a long time, he suddenly pulled out the sword in his hand. Xiao Qiuyu's posture of pulling out the sword was extremely graceful, as if it was a lost art. It made the son of all beasts fall into a daze. Therefore, he immediately dared to say that there was no second person in the world who could pull out the sword as well as Xiao Qiuyu. Furthermore, Xiao Qiuyu's action of pulling out the sword was not only graceful, it was also extremely fast. There was probably no one who could compare. At this moment, the son of all beasts suddenly felt incomparable respect for Xiao Qiuyu. How many people in the world could pull out the sword to such an extreme degree? He also completely understood the pressure of Chu Yang. Facing such an opponent, who wouldn't feel pressure? At the same time, he also completely understood Xiao Qiuyu's thoughts. At this moment, he also had a feeling that Xiao Qiuyu was indeed inferior to Chu Yang. There was no basis for such a feeling, but it was indeed there. Am I your friend? After a long silence, the son of all beasts finally spoke. Xiao Qiuyu hesitated for a moment, then nodded with certainty. You should be my first friend. First friend, this was very sad. The son of all beasts continued. I'm your friend, then do you believe what I say? Xiao Qiuyu only nodded. The son of all beasts said, then let me tell you. I've met many people, many sword cultivators. But before I met you, there wasn't a single sword cultivator that could make me feel fear. There wasn't a single sword cultivator that could make me admire them or make me feel inferior. He stared into Xiao Qiuyu's eyes and slowly said, until I met you. You are the most outstanding swordsman in the world, the most elegant swordsman. Even that bastard Chu can't compare to you. Xiao Qiuyu's emotionless face suddenly revealed a strange expression. Perhaps it was pride, or perhaps it was something else, but one thing was certain, the Xiao Qiuyu at this moment was completely different from before. The change in his state of mind seemed to make the crescent moon in the sky of the starting ground suddenly brighter, and the brilliance of the sword also seemed to become brighter. The son of all beasts knew that Xiao Qiuyu had regained his confidence. Originally, he wanted to laugh and laugh happily, but he suddenly sensed a stern and terrifying sword aura coming straight at him. His heart skipped a beat. This sword aura was too shocking. The son of all beasts' smile froze on his face, but a sense of pride surged in his heart. This was his friend, and everything he said before was the truth. There was not a single lie. Chu Yang was shocking, but Chu Yang's current cultivation in the way of the sword was definitely not as good as Xiao Qiuyu's. This was not what made him the happiest. What made him the happiest was that Xiao Qiuyu truly treated him as a friend. For a person in low spirits, the encouragement of a friend was the most miraculous medicine in the world. Only when they became friends could it be like this. Otherwise, everything he said just now was nonsense. Especially for someone like Xiao Qiuyu, if they were not friends, his words were nothing. I hope that bastard Chu also treats me as a friend. Chapter 1689. The moonlight was like water, and the son of all beasts went straight ahead. He said that he was going to invite the Green Lotus Goddess, because that bastard Chu had declared earlier that he was going to do the Green Lotus Goddess 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times. As a friend, if the Green Lotus Goddess saw Chu Yang's unparalleled elegance, then Chu Yang might do the Green Lotus Goddess 100 times. Xiao Qiuyu could not understand the hobbies of Chu Yang and the son of all beasts, but he thought that he would soon understand, because other than the sword, he now had friends, not one, but two. One is marked by the company one keeps. He understood, and he could not help but laugh. This is indeed a very good friend. Fatty Slower and Skinny Faster appeared and said. Xiao Qiuyu nodded. I don't have many things to be proud of, but this is one of them. Your mentality is indeed not as good as his. Xiao Qiuyu naturally knew that this him was Chu Yang, and he also nodded. This was also one of the few things he was proud of, to be able to see through someone like Chu Yang in an instant. When he feels pressure, he will scold people. The son of all beasts does not need to be comforted at all, but he has provoked the son of all beasts to no end. Fatty Slower and Skinny Faster spoke in detail, and it was obvious that the two of them were secretly observing Chu Yang. This is the reason why I want to challenge him. Xiao Qiuyu's eyes suddenly lit up, and they were extremely sharp. Fatty Slower and Skinny Faster could not help but nod in admiration. He is indeed a rare opponent, and it is indeed your fortune to meet him. Then, Skinny Faster added, you will lose, but you will definitely not die. Xiao Qiuyu's eyes trembled. So, I just need to give it my all? There was still a hint of disbelief in his tone. Yes. Fatty Slower nodded repeatedly, but he was too slow. Skinny Faster anxiously said, he will definitely comprehend Tao, but it depends on whether you can comprehend Tao. At this time, Fatty Slower opened his mouth and said, I have only seen such a person once in my life. Hearing this, Xiao Qiuyu's heart was completely shaken. If a friend's encouragement had restored his confidence, then the guidance of an elder would have allowed him to have a clearer understanding of what he should do. The best result is that both of you will comprehend Tao. The worst result is that you will not comprehend Tao. To an opponent, to give it your all is the greatest respect. As for your friend needs you to give him the greatest pressure to help him comprehend. Fatty Slower said, and Skinny Faster, and Skinny Faster. Don't worry, don't make a mistake. I understand. Xiao Qiuyu's heart had completely settled down. He was doing his best to prepare for tomorrow's battle with Chu Yang. Beidou Chu to the Beidou of the Beidou shall Beidou the beasts of all beasts to bets, and everyone was discussing it. Do any of you know where Xiao Qiuyu and Chu Wudi will fight tomorrow? If you miss this battle, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Xiao Qiuyu is incomparably terrifying. A single sword light is enough to force the child of destiny to self-destruct. Since he values Chu Wudi so much, Chu Wudi must be incomparably terrifying as well. If we miss this battle, it would be a pity. I still have no idea where Xiao Qiuyu is, and I don't even know where Chu Wudi is. This is simply making me anxious. Who isn't? Now, many people are frantically trying to find out the location and time of the battle. Chapter 1690. The Son of Light, the Five Poisons Master, and the others were indeed using all their resources to inquire about the situation between Chu Yang and Xiao Qiu. They were also very curious about the battle between the two, and their hearts itched unbearably. However, what made them angry was that they were really completely ignored by Chu Yang and Xiao Qiu. It was as if insects were not qualified to watch the battle between two huge dragons. The starting child was also alarmed, but he almost did not get any information. He only knew that many big shots from the Sword Pavilion had already entered the starting ground to prepare for this battle. Therefore, the starting child was also looking forward to this battle, but he did not have the chance to be present to watch it. He felt the same as the Son of Light, the Underworld Child, and the Five Poisons Master. The feeling of being ignored was really unpleasant. Only the Green Lotus Goddess was a little surprised because the Son of all beasts had found her and invited her to watch the battle tomorrow. This made her confused and completely confused. However, when the Son of all beasts accidentally said the words, "sister-in-law," she instantly understood and blushed. The Son of all beasts hurriedly explained and slapped his own mouth, but in the end, he realized that there was no need for that at all. It seemed to be the truth because the Green Lotus Goddess' reaction was not very intense, and she did not violently beat him up. "Bastard Chu Yang, you're really something. Silently, you've reached this step." The heart of the Green Lotus Goddess of the fairy domain actually did not escape from him. The Son of all beasts was truly impressed and secretly doubted, could it be that this sentence, "I want to do the Green Lotus Goddess 100 times, has some kind of indescribable magic? When he saw the seductive Lu Yun beside the Green Lotus Goddess, he almost shouted such a sentence at her. After the Son of all beasts left, the Green Lotus Goddess was also very conflicted. She really wanted to watch the battle between these two supreme prodigies, but she was also afraid that the two words "sister-in-law" would become true. She was truly at a loss as to what to do. When she thought about the strange feelings she had with Chu Yang, her inner feelings became even more complicated. She really didn't know where to put her heart. Storm after storm engulfed the entire starting ground. The battle between Chu Yang and Xiao Qiu had stirred up the entire starting ground. Just as the first light of dawn was about to descend, almost everyone was still clueless. When the first light of dawn made a sound and caused the darkness to recede, Chu Yang once again saw the three old men, the monk, the Taoist, and the layman. At that moment, the three old men all had extremely tired expressions on their faces. "Your sword." Before dawn, the three old men finally forged the sword that Chu Yang needed. Chu Yang originally felt somewhat apologetic towards the three old men and even more grateful. However, when he suddenly saw his sword, he couldn't help but be stunned. Although it was called a sword, it wasn't even a sword. What the three old men threw over was a black ball that looked like a shot put. "This is his sword of contradiction." Chu Yang was completely shocked, but he didn't say anything immediately. The three old men were all extraordinary people. What they did must be extraordinary. Perhaps there was some mystery behind it. But he caught the ball. In an instant, he felt that what he was holding wasn't a black metal ball at all. Instead, it was as if he was holding a balance. The power of water and fire, light and darkness, and yin and yang in his body were like heavy objects. As long as the weight was slightly off, the balance in his hand would have a corresponding reaction. Magical, truly magical. Chapter 1691. Dang, dang, dang. When he caught the metal ball, the sound of a blacksmith forging a weapon could be heard. It was as if he was forging a divine sword with the heavens and earth as the hammer. Rumble. Chu Yang's aura was stimulated and poured into the black metal ball. At the same time, His blood essence was also drawn out and entered the metal ball. After that, the black metal ball suddenly stretched. First, the sword tip appeared. Then, the ridge, the sword edge, the sword groove, etc. all appeared one by one. Finally, a divine sword appeared in Chu Yang's hand. The sword was sometimes black and white, sometimes it was chaotic and misty. Sometimes it was like water and fire meeting, forming a fog. It was also like the sun rising and the moon setting, day and night alternating. It was even like a half-god, half-demon, erupting with a terrifying aura. The most shocking thing was that the sword could change between a saber and a sword. As long as Chu Yang used his saber martial spirit, there would be such a change. Clang! 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 The sword trembled slightly, and the sound of the sword resounded through the heaven and earth. Sword chi soared into the sky and endless sword light burst out, drowning the area. It was as if a treasure was bestowed upon a hero. It was as if a treasure had met a wise master. Chu Yang approved of this divine sword very much. The compatibility between the two was raised to the extreme in an instant, reaching a perfect level. This kid is really amazing. His compatibility with the sword is so high. It seems that he already has a clear understanding of his own sword Tao. The changes of the sword are incomparably changeable. The scene is also very shocking. It's really rare to see such a scene. The three old men were very tired, but at this moment they were all shocked. Their eyes were filled with amazement. A treasure sword, especially a good treasure sword, to be compatible with the sword user was not something that could be done overnight. It needed a long time to be one with the sword. The person was the sword, and the sword was the person. Although this sword was tailor-made for Chu Yang, the speed at which he merged with the sword was still a little too fast. Even Xiao Qiuyu was not as fast as him. Haha! Chu Yang was very happy. He could not help but laugh out loud. Treasure sword with two flood dragons, snowflakes illuminate the hibiscus. Bright light illuminated the heaven and earth, but the thunder could not be rushed. Leaving the golden box behind, Fei Shin is lost. The wind has been extinguished for a long time, so it has hidden its edge. Wu's waters are 10,000 zhang deep, Chu's mountains are boundless. Male and female will never be separated. Divine objects will meet when they meet. This poem did not fit the situation, and most people would not understand the true meaning behind it. However, Chu Yang did not remember many poems about swords, and only this one seemed to be related to his contradictory sword. No matter what, he was so happy that he wanted to recite a poem and pretend to be elegant. As for whether it was suitable or not, it didn't matter as long as he was happy and his sword was happy. Good sword, truly a peerless sword. Chu Yang respectfully said to the three old men, I have troubled the three seniors, many thanks to the three seniors. As long as you're satisfied. As long as it suits you. As long as I can unleash the might of your sword Tao and help you comprehend the Tao, this trip will be considered a success. Chu Yang cupped his fists again and said solemnly, Seniors, I will definitely not disappoint you. This battle will definitely be the most amazing battle in the history of the gods' world. You are quite confident. Not only am I confident in myself, but I am also confident in Brother Xiao, whom I have never met before. It was difficult to be young and arrogant in life. So what if he spoke arrogantly in front of the seniors? He could not be lethargic and disappoint the seniors. Chu Yang boldly made a guarantee, and the next battle between him and Xiao Qiuyu was about to begin. Who would win and who would lose? Who would live and who would die? Chapter 1692. Early morning. Xiao Qiuyu liked early mornings, especially early mornings when the spring rain was like silk. He felt that the air at this time was the freshest and most tranquil. At this time, his mind was the clearest. Xiao Qiuyu arrived at the location of the decisive battle first. At this moment, the spring rain was drizzling. A swallow was swaying its tail on the rippling surface of the lake in the spring light, cutting out little ripples like a woman's dress. Everything was recovering. The grass was sprouting. A drop of dew on a flower was suffused with a blurry seven-colored hazy light under the morning sun. It was not spring in the starting ground, but now it was spring. It was spring when the flowers bloomed in March and April. Of course, this was man-made, and it didn't start when Xiao Qiuyu arrived. Instead, it started when he decided to fight with Chu Yang. That swallow was specially found because Xiao Qiuyu liked swallows in spring. It was a habit of the sword pavilion. No one knew when it became a habit. The most outstanding disciple would always find someone to test his sword when the flowers bloomed in spring. It was cold and hot. It was better to be quiet than to move. They said that the best weather, whether it was to kill or be killed, was the best weather. The flowers bloomed. The disciples of the sword pavilion unsheathed their swords. They were prepared to kill and they were prepared to die. The blood they shed was no different from ordinary people, just like Xiao Qiuyu at this moment. Xiao Qiuyu never had the habit of being late, and he never waited for others. Only he would wait for others. Waiting for others would inevitably lead to anxiety, and anxiety would lead to confusion. Before the decisive battle, Xiao Qiuyu would never use such a strategy, regardless of whether his opponent was Chu Yang or someone else. He was not in a hurry at all. He walked very slowly. Because today might be the most glorious moment of his life, the happiest moment. In such a moment, everyone hoped that time would pass slowly. Xiao Qiuyu was no exception. The 5 elders of the sword pavilion had arrived early. It was as if they had always been here and had never left. The son of all beasts had also arrived. His mood for this battle was extremely complicated. Although he had not known Xiao Qiuyu or Chu Yang for a long time, it did not stop him from having this kind of mentality. Old-haired but new, old-haired, 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 old-haired. Humans were such wonderful creatures. In the distance, 2 women gracefully appeared in the mist that had yet to disperse in the early morning. The woman at the front had clear and gentle eyes, like the flowing water in the spring breeze. Her hair was soft, and so was her waist, like a willow branch in the spring breeze. No matter what kind of man saw this kind of woman, he couldn't help but forget everything. At this moment, she was slowly walking out of the fog. Her every move had a kind of elegant and graceful charm. She wasn't dressed extravagantly, and she didn't wear any jewelry, as if those were unnecessary. The Green Lotus Goddess had also come along with her maid, Lu Yun. Unfortunately, there was no fluctuation in the world. Whether it was the 5 old men from the sword pavilion, the son of all beasts, or Xiao Qiuyu, they were indifferent to the arrival of the 2 girls because they were definitely not the main characters today. Including the 2 of them, there were only 8 people watching this battle from the side. It was impossible for there to be an extra one. This was naturally the usual practice of the sword pavilion. There were definitely not many people who could see them die or the process of them killing someone. For the sword pavilion, drawing a sword to kill or being killed was perhaps only a matter of an instant. However, for them, that moment was the most solemn and sacred moment. Chapter 1693. Therefore, the so-called son of absolute beginning, son of destiny, and so on, they were all not qualified. Although Xiao Qiuyu's sword was a sword that everyone wanted to take a look at, and they wanted to see his amazing swordsmanship even more. You win and lose, true and false, over and over again I stand in the distance, true and false, clear as day looking at mountains and rivers, infatuated and confused, fate gathering and fate dispersing, the ebb and flow of the tide is also nothingness. Suddenly, a carefree singing voice came from afar, shattering the solemnity of this place. When that carefree person appeared in front of the son of all beasts and the green lotus goddess with a sword, their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Even Xiao Qiuyu had a strange expression on his face. Was he here for a duel? The person who came was naturally Chu Yang. As soon as he arrived, he didn't look at anyone except for the beauty, the green lotus goddess. She was in a faint mist, and at first glance, Chu Yang almost blurted out the two words, Lan Lan. She was too similar to Shangguan Lan. She was only wearing a white gown, which was very light and thin. When the wind blew, the gown fluttered like a faint layer of mist. "Hi, beauty, long time no see, I even miss you." Chu Yang was like a street hoodlum. Not only did it make the green lotus goddess's expression even more strange, it was the same for everyone else. The son of all beasts couldn't help but stare at him, as if to say, "Is this a strategy? You're deliberately oppressing Xiao Qiuyu. What are you glaring at me for? Do you want me to cry and tell the whole world how pitiful I am with a sad face?" Chu Yang glared back at him. He almost cursed out loud. The son of all beasts gritted his teeth, but couldn't find the words to retort. Even if he could, he definitely wouldn't say anything at this time. At this time, no one could interfere. The 5 elders of the Sword Pavilion didn't have any objections to Chu Yang's behavior. Since they were opponents, they could use any method. Moreover, this was not a trick at all. That thing's nature seemed to be like this. Chu Yang finally faced Xiao Qiuyu. He couldn't help but look at Xiao Qiuyu from head to toe. She was wearing a snow-white robe that could be said to be spotless. She had a delicate and pale face. Her face was cold and indifferent. She seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. "This is Xiao Qiuyu?" When he saw Xiao Qiuyu, Chu Yang instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The Xiao Qiuyu in front of him was far more than he had imagined. You have to be unique. For a moment, he couldn't describe how he felt. Xiao Qiuyu's cold and indifferent expression, his face so pale that it was close to death, completely displayed his life in front of Chu Yang. Chu Yang saw that Xiao Qiuyu was lonely and incomparably cold, not interacting with others. Only when he felt the boiling blood flowing through Xiao Qiuyu's body did he know that Xiao Qiuyu was never pitiful, nor was his life miserable. Because Xiao Qiuyu had a sword. "Just like what I saw in the information, you didn't let me down at all." Chu Yang smiled bitterly in his heart. This was the first time they had met, and it was very likely to be the last time they would meet. Chu Yang was looking at Xiao Qiuyu, and Xiao Qiuyu was also looking at Chu Yang. However, no one knew how Xiao Qiuyu felt about Chu Yang. The two of them stared at each other for a long time. Suddenly, they opened their mouths at the same time, and both of them only said one word, "Please." There seemed to be no need to say anything between the two of them, because they already understood each other well enough. Or it could be said that a fatal opponent had appeared, and a fatal blow was about to be delivered. Between life and death, what else was there to say? Chapter 1694. Ha ha! Chu Yang suddenly laughed out loud. "It seems like dying in your hands isn't something difficult to accept. How miraculous!" His laughter caused the son of 10,000 beasts' tense heartstrings to relax, and the world seemed to have returned to normal. A gentle spring breeze blew past, and it was incomparably gentle. "I'm not your opponent." Xiao Qiuyu was still cold and indifferent. He had a faint smile on his face, but there was a smile in his eyes. It was a little strange. The two of them were actually humble. It was very strange. "This is a good place to die." "This is indeed a good place to die." "Please," the two of them spoke at the same time. If they continued, it would become a contest of humility. At this moment, the 8 people present all stared at the 2 people in the arena without blinking. They seemed to be more concerned about the life and death of these 2 people than their own lives. The wind suddenly blew. The spring breeze became unusually intense at this moment. It actually made whistling sounds. Suddenly 2 clangs sounded. 2 sword lights suddenly burst out. Then, with a ding, the 2 swords collided. Rumble! In an instant, thunder rumbled. Lightning snakes danced. Endless lightning exploded and completely drowned the place. It seemed like it wasn't a contest of swords, but of thunder techniques. The profoundness attached to their swords were both thunder techniques. This wasn't just a contest of sword technique. It was also a contest of thunder technique. Why couldn't thunder techniques be used with swords? In just a moment, Chu Yang and Xiao Qiuyu's figures appeared again. The result was that they were evenly matched. Chu Yang had the general principles of thunder technique. The thunder technique was extremely profound. However, Xiao Qiuyu's understanding of thunder techniques was definitely not inferior to Chu Yang's. The shock in Xiao Qiuyu's heart was definitely no less than Chu Yang's. This was because he had started cultivating the extremely fierce way of the sword. It was the way of the sword that was related to thunder. Therefore, when it came to thunder techniques, he believed that no one in his generation could compare. Ding! After the first sword, it was the second sword. However, the rhythm seemed to be controlled by Chu Yang. For the second strike, Chu Yang used the water sword principle. He integrated all the water rule that he had comprehended into his sword technique. The sword pierced forward. It was like water, like ice, like mist, flowing slowly like water. It was as sharp as an icicle, and the sword light was like mist. You want me to recall the process of learning the sword? How thoughtful! Warmth flowed through Xiao Qiuyu's heart. Chu Yang knew the process of him learning the sword, and since he wanted to comprehend the Tao, going through it first would only be beneficial to him. There was absolutely no harm. In an instant, every detail of his swordsmanship training appeared in his mind. It was especially different at this moment. It was like a person reminiscing about their life before they died. Xiao Qiuyu believed what Chu Yang said. Chu Yang definitely did not have the confidence to defeat him, but even if he lost, Chu Yang was willing to help him. This is a fool. With such a state of mind, he pierced out with his sword. He did not hold back at all and integrated his water sword principle into the sword as he pierced out. There was no sign of water. It was just an extremely ordinary sword strike. Xiao Qiuyu's grasp of the water sword principle was even more proficient, returning to its original state. After the incomparably pleasant sound of the swords rang out, rumble, the sound of a surging flood erupted. The 2 swords were like 2 great rivers colliding together, sweeping straight up into the 9 heavens. It was also like a dragon had suddenly charged out from the ocean, the scene shocking the world. Splash! The waves crashed to the highest point and turned into a downpour, completely drenching the 2 of them. This sword strike was still a draw. Although Xiao Qiuyu's grasp of the water sword principle was more proficient, his comprehension of the water sword principle was slightly inferior to Chu Yang's. Therefore, they were about the same. The 2 of them had the same result twice in a row. It was somewhat inconceivable. Moreover, this was not a true battle. It was just the initial contact, but it was already so shocking. Chapter 1695. Ding, ding, ding. After a short pause, Chu Yang and Xiao Qiuyu's attacks became faster and faster. The sounds of swords rang out continuously, as if they were playing a grand and majestic movement. With every syllable that leapt out, the hearts of the son of all beasts, the green lotus goddess, and the others could not help but skip a beat. Their hearts seemed to beat along with the syllables, as if they were about to jump out of their chests. After the water sword Tao, the 2 clashed with the fire sword Tao. They were still evenly matched. Behind them were the metal sword Tao, wood sword Tao, and wind sword Tao. Xiao Qiuyu won. Chu Yang was no match for him. His body trembled as he spat out 4 mouthfuls of blood. The blood arrows were like a basin of water that splashed out, scattering down like delicate flowers that bloomed in the air. The world instantly fell silent. Perhaps the outcome was about to be decided. The two of them did not use any feints from the start. They were all fighting head-on. The loser would definitely be injured, while the weaker would definitely die. There was no suspense. Such a competition caused the 8 people present to be even more focused, to the extent that they didn't even dare to blink their eyes. Xiao Qiyu paused and didn't continue to attack. But Chu Yang didn't have any intention to take a break and adjust his breathing. Although Xiao Qiyu had given him such an opportunity, how could he take advantage of such an opportunity as a man? Chu Yang's sword pierced out once again silently. Xiao Qiyu also stabbed out. Suddenly, it was as if the sun had set and the moon had risen. Night had descended. With this stab, the world suddenly darkened. There was almost no light at all. It was pitch black like ink. It was a miraculous sword technique. When the sword was drawn, the night would be born, changing the weather. Chu Yang's sword was slightly different from Xiao Qiyu's. When he struck out, it was as if 10,000 demons had come into being, causing chaos in the world. Endless sounds resounded, and surging demonic qi surged. It was pitch black and boundless. Ding! It was as if 2 demons were fighting in the darkness. The crisp sounds of swords suddenly became incomparably terrifying. It was as if demons were eating and chewing. Soon after, it was as if the curtain of darkness had fallen, and the world returned to normal. Thud, thud, thud. Xiao Qiyu took 3 steps back, but he did not release any of his power onto the ground. This was because Chu Yang had done the same thing just now. Both of them treated this place as their own graveyard, and neither of them was willing to damage it in the slightest. They forcefully endured the impact of the enormous power. Poof! Xiao Qiyu also spat out a mouthful of blood, but his eyes became even brighter and sharper, like 2 divine swords being unsheathed. Chu Yang really wouldn't disappoint him. He didn't stop and immediately stabbed out with his sword again. Immediately, endless multicolored light burst forth. It was the same as the morning clouds on the horizon. It was bright red, and there was even a great sun in it. Chu Yang was like Kwafu chasing after the sun. He lunged forward with his sword, and it was as if the Legion of Gods had appeared. The pure land of the Legion of Gods was revealed, and the radiance of the Legion of Gods filled the area with holy light. Thud, thud, thud. Xiao Qiyu was defeated again, and continuously retreated. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, his originally corpse-like face became even paler. However, the light in his eyes became even brighter, and when it burst out, it actually emitted the sound of swords, which was extremely shocking. Thunder, water, fire, metal, wood, earth, wind, light, and darkness. During the battle, Chu Yang had 3 draws, 4 losses, and 2 victories. He was completely at a disadvantage, and it was obvious who was superior. The warm-up is over, can we start now? As soon as Xiao Qiyu spoke, the pupils of the Son of All Beasts, the Green Lotus Goddess, and Lu Yun couldn't help but shrink. Just now was just a warm-up. Such a warm-up was really too terrifying. The 9 great Tao of Swords had all clashed once. Chapter 1696. Chu Yang's gaze froze. What came next was the most dangerous and fatal moment. To Xiao Qiyu, it was just a clash of swordsmanship fundamentals. Chu Yang's swordsmanship foundation was far inferior to Xiao Qiu's. He was completely defeated by Xiao Qiu's swordsmanship foundation, and this was within his expectations. The true battle of life and death had finally arrived. Clang! Like a sharp sword being unsheathed, the sound of swords filled the air. The world was filled with sword rays. There was a word, a rune, or a small sword. It didn't look very real, but it burst out from Xiao Qiu's body and caused a huge commotion. In an instant, everyone present felt that their eyes were filled with swords, and their ears were filled with the sound of swords. Their consciousness had also become a world of sword. What kind of swordsmanship is this? The green lotus goddess couldn't help but cry out in surprise. The son of all beasts was also surprised at first, but he finally understood. Chu Yang, who was in the field, felt it much more intensely than them. His entire body trembled, and the sound of swords in his body continued. It was as if he was about to transform into a sword. Sword of all things art. He instantly knew what kind of swordsmanship it was. It was Xiao Qiuyu's self-created sword of all things art, and it was comparable to the dragon of all things art created by the ancestral dragon. This is the sword of all things art. Not only does it transform everything in the world into swords, but it also wants to transform me into a sword? Chu Yang was extremely shocked. Clang clang clang. Another 3 sword runes burst out from Xiao Qiuyu's body and connected with the first sword rune. They seemed to be flowers, birds, fishes, and insects. Clang clang clang. More sword runes burst out from Xiao Qiuyu's body. The sound of swords was like thunder rumbling. The sword runes that jumped out seemed to represent the sun, moon, and stars. They also seemed to represent heaven and earth and the universe. The endless sword runes seemed to represent everything in the world. They gathered together and formed a world of swords. Like a moving star, it instantly charged towards Chu Yang. At this moment, it was as if a world was bombarding Chu Yang. How do we fight? Chu Yang couldn't think of any solution in that instant. Sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. With his current strength, he felt that all of his methods would be unable to withstand this move. If he took the risk and used it to resist, it was very likely that only death would await him. Fight? Why fight? Suddenly, it was as if a window had opened up in his consciousness. He felt as if he had suddenly found a new path. As far as he was concerned, the sword world was the tide of an era. He was powerless to go against the tide of an era, and even more powerless to stop the wheels of an era. What he should do was to follow the tide of an era and move forward with the tide of an era. There is no right or wrong in the tide of the times, only one's own right or wrong. It's enough to maintain one's original heart. It's enough as long as one is clear and pure when the world is turbid. Clang! Suddenly, Chu Yang made a shocking move. He sheathed his sword, causing the 5 old men from the sword pavilion to widen their eyes in shock. You're crazy! The son of all beasts roared. Xiao Qiuyu was stunned and was practically petrified on the spot. What is he doing? Xiao Qiuyu pondered intensely in his mind. He was completely unable to determine Chu Yang's intentions. Chu Yang didn't explain. His words were definitely not as direct as his actions. He leaped into the world of swords like a moth flying into a flame. Clang! With a sword hum, Chu Yang was like a divine sword returning to his own world as he entered the world of swords. Immediately, the sword hum in his body became even more intense. His hair seemed to have transformed into sharp swords that stood upright and pierced the sky. Chapter 1697. However, in an instant, his pupils had also turned into the shape of a sword, completely distorted. The sound of the sword in his body was like rolling thunder, and his entire body emitted a cold light like a sword blade. Endless sharp aura swept out, and he was about to turn into a sword. He wants to feel my all things sword transformation technique, and wants to see if I can turn him into a sword? Xiao Qiuyu's pupils contracted, and then he shook violently. Using the body as a sword. It was an extremely simple logic. Since Chu Yang was a sword, why would he be afraid of being assimilated by his all things sword transformation technique? However, how could his all things sword transformation technique be so simple? How could it be a mere combination of man and sword? The man was the sword, and the sword could be resolved by the man. What is he trying to do? Xiao Qiuyu was completely confused. Chu Yang had greatly exceeded his expectations. He had never thought that one day, when he condensed thousands of sword techniques, there would be someone who would deal with it like this. However, he could not help but admire Chu Yang's courage. Who would have such courage to treat his sword with such disdain? Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, when Chu Yang's flesh was about to turn into a sword, his spiritual world was also filled with flying swords, which began to erase his thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. A sword was a weapon for killing, a cold weapon for killing. How could it have thoughts, emotions, and thoughts? Chu Yang wanted to turn into a sword, so the first thing he had to erase was his thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. Of course, he had already thought of this. Don't panic when things are complicated, don't waste time when things are idle, keep your word, and be strong when you have no desires. Gentle like the spring breeze, solemn like the autumn frost, like money, round on the outside and square on the inside. Chu Yang's clear voice came from the world of swords. Roundness was the way to conduct oneself in the world, and the foundation of being a person. Round on the outside and square on the inside, this was the wisdom passed down by the ancestors. At the same time, in his spiritual world, light and darkness, deities and demons, hell and heaven all appeared. Deities, light, and heaven formed a circle, forming 3 circles. Hell, darkness, and demons formed a square, forming 3 circles. Layers of defense. When interacting with people, one naturally had to give them kindness and positive energy. Light and heaven were the most compatible with this. However, his heart was not hell, and the demon at the center was naturally not a demon. It was freedom and self, but it was guarded by darkness and hell. I am myself. If you want me to lose myself, then you have to break through hell and heaven and obliterate darkness and light. Moreover, you have to kill the holy deities and lawless demons. Swoosh! Swoosh! In his consciousness, the endless flying swords were like guests, like people he wanted to come in contact with, or people he wanted to meet, or people who were rude and unreasonable, or people who were rampant and arrogant. There were all kinds of them, but they were all received, dealt with, or perfunctorily by the 3 circles of God, light, and heaven, or even blocked many of them. Although the 3 circles blocked many of the flying swords, at least half of the flying swords still bombarded the 3 circles of hell, darkness, and demons. In an instant, to Chu Yang, the countless flying swords were like countless extreme temptations, or countless greed, or some kind of ambition, or the unfairness of the world, or all kinds of ugliness and so on. They wanted to shake his will, shake his heart, and cause him to completely fall and then be completely destroyed. Hell and darkness, these 2 sides were quickly broken through, but in the end, they were unable to break through the last side, the last demon. That demon represented freedom and self, and all kinds of things were unable to drown out his final conscience. Chu Yang was not worried in the slightest. The hardest thing to shake was a person's will. He firmly believed that he could resist. Just like a famous saying in his previous life, people could be killed, but they absolutely could not be defeated. What he was worried about was his physical body. At this moment, his body was like the sea of officials and merchants, rising and falling in life, rising and falling with the tide of swords. Sometimes it was at the highest point, sometimes it was at the lowest point, like a small boat bobbing up and down in a stormy sea. This small boat was in imminent danger, in danger of capsizing at any time. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.